Good evening, students. I welcome you all to this live coaching class for Paper4B Indirect Taxes. I am Shafali Jain. I am a faculty for Indirect Taxes at Board of Studies. With us, we have CA Deepak Jain, who is an expert in indirect taxes, and he is a faculty for GST for quite a long time now. Welcome, Deepak, to this coaching class session today.
Thank you, Meenu.
Yeah. Deepak will be your mentor for all the substantive provisions of GST. For learning GST, he will be your mentor in this journey of learning of GST. And before we start the technical aspect of the class, I would like to apprise you with some of the useful tips for studying this paper and how to derive maximum benefit from these classes, from these coaching classes which Institute has arranged for all the students. So this is an initiative of Board of Studies, and I think you will be finding these classes very useful for your examination. So we'll be covering I will be covering the questions like which examination these classes are relevant for, what are the relevant BOS publications, what is the position of law which will be covered in these classes, and how to get the maximum benefit from these classes, what type of questions are asked in the examination, what are the points you need to keep in mind while approaching this paper or while studying this paper. So all these things we will be going through in further course of this session. First of all, first question is that for which particular examination these classes are relevant. So these classes are relevant for May 2022 examination as well as for November 2022 examination. So students who are appearing in both these examinations should take benefit from these classes. For May 2022 examination, the position of law which is relevant is up to 31st October 2021. So this is the position which will be covered in these classes, which will be starting from today. And for November 2022 examination, the cutoff date is 30th April 2022. So as you can see that this date is yet to come. So whatever amendments are there between 1st November 2021 to 30th April 2022 will be covered in separate class, in the form of separate classes afterwards. But for May 2022, complete position of law which is relevant for the students will be covered in these classes. So now let me apprise you that what is the details of the position of law which you have to study for May 2022 examination. For May 2022 examination, Finance Act 2021, to the extent it has become effective till 31st October 2021, as well as the notifications and circulars which are issued till that date. Now, since taxation is a relatively newer subject for those students who have come through the foundation route, they will be studying this tax paper for the first time. And the direct entry students also, they might have studied income tax in the graduation level. And indirect taxes is, in very few universities, indirect tax paper is there at the graduation level. So this indirect tax paper is comparatively newer for you. So I would like to tell you that how these changes are effective or made effective in the respective this indirect tax laws. Every year during the budget session, the finance bill is proposed in the parliament, and after the changes are proposed to this finance bill. Now, once this finance bill is discussed in both the houses of the parliament, it goes for the assent of the president, and once the president grants his assent, then the finance bill becomes Finance Act. That means those changes can be now made effective. Since it is a GST legislation is there at the center as well as at the state level. So whatever amendments have been passed at the center level, they are made effective. The respective states, they pass their respective legislation and make changes in their respective state GST laws. And then after all the states have made these changes effective, then the respective Finance Act amendments are made effective. Through the notifications and circulars are issued throughout the year to make changes in the delegated legislations like rules, notifications. They can be issued throughout the year. So this is how changes take place in the GST law. And for May 2022 examination, whatever changes, whatever amendments have taken place, legislative amendments as well as the notification and circulars which have been issued till 31st October 2021 are relevant for you. As regards the Finance Act which is applicable for you is Finance Act 2021. So Finance Act 2021 plus the notifications and circulars. Now, Finance Act 2021, there are certain amendments which have not become effective till 31st October 2021. They became effective after that date. So only those amendments which became effective till 31st October. This is the date which you have to keep in mind, 31st October 2021. And in these classes, Deepak will definitely take care that the position of law amended up to 31st October 2021 will be discussed. For November 2022 examination, the Finance Act 2021, the amendments which have become effective till 30th April 2022, most of them have become effective till this date. And in fact, they have already been effective, but not till 31st October. So they will be discussed in November 2022 examination. Separately, we will be holding statutory update for all the notifications and circulars and the Finance Act amendments which became effective after 31st October for November, because they will be applicable only for November 2022 examination. In fact, one important point regarding this indirect taxes paper, you all must be aware of this, but I'm just going through it, that this paper for taxation carries 100 marks and it has two sections. One is income tax, that is for 60 marks, and another is indirect taxes. So weightage of indirect taxes is though 40 marks, but it is very scoring. I would suggest you that you try to master this subject. You will be scoring higher in this paper. So most of the students, what they do is they first complete their indirect tax portion and then they move towards the income tax. So you should be very attentive in these classes and you should take maximum benefit from these classes so that you can score maximum 35, 37 marks at least in this paper. Now we'll go through the relevant BOS legislations, BOS publications which are relevant for this paper, and you should take use of these publications. First is the study material. And study material which is relevant for May 2022 and November 2022 examination is the August edition of the study material. Then with that you have to study the statutory update, which will be taking care of the 6 months amendment. That means along with statutory update, if you read the study material, you will get the complete position of law which is applicable till 31st October 2021. Next is the revision test paper. Now, revision test paper for May 2022, they will be available in by next month. So, but in this revision test paper, you should go through only when you have completed your entire syllabus. Please don't go through the revision test paper before completing the syllabus, because this might demotivate you if you're not able to solve the questions. Generally, the questions will be an integration of 2-3 provisions. So you might find it difficult to solve the questions. I would suggest that revision test paper as well as the mock test papers, they should be solved once you have completed the syllabus. Then last is the case scenario and the MCQ booklet. Now this we have recently come up with the latest edition, updated edition of the MCQ booklet and case scenario booklet. As you know that the 30% weightage in taxation paper is of the MCQs and case scenarios based MCQs, independent as well as case scenario based MCQs. So you should refer to this case scenario booklet, but again this case scenario booklet and MCQ booklet, since this also has integration of the provisions of 2-3 provisions or sometimes more provisions, because case scenarios is an integration of in fact larger number of provisions. So I would suggest that you should definitely solve this case scenario booklet, but only once you have completed the syllabus. And when you are solving any of the questions, maybe the questions are of RTP or MTP or this case scenario booklet, you should first of all solve these questions on your own, and then you should check your answers. Please don't rush to the answers before computing or before solving it on your own, because definitely you will miss out the point where you are lacking. So always it should be your strategy that whenever you are solving any question of study material, RTP, MTP, you should first of all try to solve it on your own. This will definitely help you in identifying the areas where you are lacking or where you are having some problem. Otherwise, if you read the answer first, you will never be able to identify or locate the area where you are actually lacking. So these are the publications, and last comes the statutory update. So for May 2022, the statutory update has already been posted on the website. You can refer it along with the study material. And for November 2022, it will be posted after 30th April, because the cutoff date for the statutory update will be 30th April 2022. The amendments will be till 30th April 2022. So it will be hosted after a reasonable time of 30th April. Now the next comes is how to take the maximum benefit from these classes. Now what should be your strategy for going through these classes? Because now this is the first session, so you should be very clear that how you are going to approach the subject through these classes. It is a very good platform which Institute has provided, and you should take the maximum benefit from these classes. First is that you should go through the notes which the faculty will be providing to you. In this, for today's session, Deepak is there and he has already provided the notes for today's session. So what should be your approach is that you should beforehand go through the notes once so that you get an idea that what topic is going to be discussed in the class. So after that, you'll be clear in what you are going to do today, whether it is a heavy topic or what you are finding it interesting. So you will be mentally prepared before the class itself. During the class, each and every word is very important because it's a law-based paper and back to a tax law-based paper. So each and every word has its own significance. When you are doing the definition, you should know that each and every inclusion, each and every exclusion is very significant. You cannot plainly read the provision and then you cannot solve the questions. You should be thorough with each and every point in the definitions as well as inclusions, exclusions, reverse charge notifications, exemptions. So many things are there, but you should be very thorough in each and everything. So you should be very attentive in the class and try to resolve as your queries then and there itself. I would encourage each one of you to ask your queries during the session because this is a very good opportunity which has been provided to you all. So you should be very attentive during the class and try asking your queries. Even if you, after the class, if you read something and you get any doubt, then you should ask your query in the next class itself and don't try to postpone your queries. Then after the class, now what should be your strategy? Now you have done the class, you got an idea that what the topic is, what you have gone through in a particular session or in a particular class. You should go through that relevant provisions from the study material and read everything in detail from there and prepare your own notes. Why I am suggesting you to prepare your own notes? Because anyhow you will be getting notes in these classes also. They will also be very useful. What you can do is you can add your own points in those notes also to make it, to customize it as per your requirement, or you can make the notes on your own. The significance of making your own notes is that you don't need to remember or memorize those notes. Whatever notes you prepare, you will memorize while writing those notes only, because you will be studying the topic, you will be going through it 2-3 times and you will be writing it in your own words. This will definitely help you in memorizing the topic very easily. आपको बहुत जल्दी याद हो जाएगा वो टॉपिक, क्योंकि जो नोट्स आप खुद बनाते हो वो आपको याद नहीं करने पड़ते, वो आपको याद हो जाते हैं और आप उनको समराइज कर सकते हो, आप उनको शॉर्ट कर सकते हो. तो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट that you should try to prepare the notes. And now when you have covered the topic completely, when you have understood the topic, आपको conceptual clarity आ गई है उस topic में, then you start solving the questions. Test your knowledge के questions हर chapter के end में study material में दिए हुए हैं. Now because they have been segregated chapter wise, so when you have not completed the syllabus, I would suggest you should only go through the test your knowledge questions, because they have been categorized chapter wise and you will not find the application of any provision which you have not gone through. They have been categorized in a manner that only to the extent the topic has been covered in that chapter or the provisions have been covered in that chapter, the questions will be based on those provisions only or the chapters before which have been covered before that chapter. But उससे आगे की किसी भी टॉपिक के ऊपर वो क्वेश्चंस नहीं होंगे, तो इट विल बी इजियर फॉर यू टू अंडरस्टैंड दोस क्वेश्चंस एंड सॉल्व देम. अब इनको सॉल्व करने का भी मेथड वही रहेगा कि आपको सबसे पहले क्वेश्चन को खुद से सॉल्व करना है बिना आंसर देखे, क्योंकि ये आपको हेल्प करेगा ये देखने में कि आपके कौन से एरियाज में अभी आपको एक्सपर्टीज नहीं, आप कहाँ गलती कर रहे हो. यू शुड मार्क योर मिस्टेक्स एंड यू शुड बी वेरी पर्टिकुलर अबाउट द थिंग्स व्हिच यू हैव वेयर यू हैव गॉन रॉन्ग. When you complete a particular chapter, you feel that I have done everything and now I am thorough with this chapter. But when you will actually solve the questions, you will come to know the areas where you have to work upon, which are the weak areas, where you have to study again, or which are the areas where you have to again go through the provisions, you have to understand their application. So try to solve those questions on your own and then check where you have gone wrong. So this is how you can derive maximum benefit from this class. And I can assure you that if this way you proceed, you will definitely score very good in this paper. Now, so as I already said that this is a new paper for you all, at least for the foundation route students, they have not done taxation till now. And for this direct entry students, also indirect taxes is at least a new area. So we'll first of all start with what is a tax. You all must be having an idea of what a tax is. So tax is a pecuniary benefit, or it is in money that the government has imposed on the citizens of the country, or government has asked the people to pay. And why the government is asking the citizens to pay this money? Because they want to spend this money on public benefit or public welfare. India is a welfare state, you all know. Welfare state, when I say welfare state, it signifies that the government is determined or government is dedicated towards working for the economic and social upliftment or social benefit of the citizens of its country. So when in order to uplift the citizens socially as well as economically, government needs funds, government needs money. So that money is taken or recovered or extracted from the citizens of the country in the form of the tax. So this tax is anyhow, it is used for the benefit of the citizens only, but the government gets money to spend on the public welfare from the tax only. So this is you will find that it is very important for the government to levy taxes. It is not that the government is collecting taxes just arbitrarily. There is a proper thought process. They see that what is the expenditure they are going to incur in a particular year, what is the estimated budgeted expenditure in a year, and then on that basis, the tax structure which is going on, there some new tax has to be levied, some calamity has come, for that new cess is required. So all these things are determined based on the expenditure which the government is planning to do. Now, what are the types of taxes? You must have gone through this type already in your income tax class also, but once again, let us revise it just to understand the difference between the direct and indirect tax and to emphasize more on indirect taxes. So direct tax is a tax which is where the burden of tax is cannot be shifted to some other person. It is paid by the person on whom it is levied. For example, income tax. Income tax is paid by the person on whom it is levied. That means if a person has an income above a specified limit, then he has to pay the income tax. And the important point here is that he has to pay it from his own pocket. He cannot shift the burden. He cannot shift this expenditure to some other person. He has to pay it on his own. That means he has to deposit the tax to the government and he has to bear it on his own. Whereas if we come to the indirect tax is a tax where the burden can be shifted to the other person. Now let us understand with the help of an example. There is a case of supply of goods. Manufacturer has manufactured the goods and he supplies these goods to the wholesale wholesaler. Now when he sells these goods to wholesaler, whatever tax element is there, he collects the tax from the wholesaler and then he deposits it to the government. So the wholesaler, the manufacturer is not paying the tax from his own pocket. What he is actually doing, he is only depositing that tax with the government. He is taking it actually from the wholesaler. So who is actually bearing the tax? हम कैसे कहेंगे कि टैक्स को एक्चुअली में पे कौन कर रहा है? मैन्युफैक्चरर ने अपनी पॉकेट से कुछ नहीं लिया, उसने डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स होलसेलर से लेकर गवर्नमेंट को पे कर दिया. तो यही होता है शिफ्ट करना बर्डन. इनकम टैक्स में आप ऐसा नहीं कर सकते. अगर आपकी इनकम पे कोई टैक्स बन रहा है तो यू हैव टू पे इट ऑन योर ओन. आपको खुद ही पे करना पड़ेगा. आप लॉ डज नॉट प्रोवाइड कि आप किसी से लेके पे कर दीजिए. यू हैव टू बेयर दिस बर्डन. लेकिन इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स में लॉ इटसेल्फ प्रोवाइड्स कि आपको ये खुद नहीं देना. You have to take it from the manufacturer has to take it from the wholesaler. Then when wholesaler has to supply it to the retailer, wholesaler takes the tax amount from the retailer and pays it to the government exchequer. Similarly, retailer then sells it to the ultimate consumer. Then he takes it from the ultimate consumer and he deposits it with the government. तो इस पूरे साइकिल में हमने क्या देखा कि जो अल्टीमेटली इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स का बर्डन है, the burden of indirect taxes is finally coming on to the ultimate consumer. जो अल्टीमेट कंज्यूमर है वो सारा बर्डन उसके पास आ गया, यानी ही इज द वन हु इज एक्चुअली बियरिंग द इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स. सो इसी तरह से बर्डन का मतलब आपने देखा कि बर्डन पास हो रहा है, यानी मैन्युफैक्चरर ने फाइनली जो पूरा बर्डन मैन्युफैक्चरर से शुरू हुआ था टैक्स का, टैक्स मैन्युफैक्चरर ने लगाया, फिर उसका क्रेडिट मिला उसको होलसेलर को, फिर होलसेलर रिटेलर को बेचा, रिटेलर ने अल्टीमेट कंज्यूमर को बेचा, तो अल्टीमेट कंज्यूमर को उसका बर्डन बियर करना पड़ा. लेकिन इनकम टैक्स के केस में जिसके ऊपर टैक्स इंपोज हो रहा है उसी को ही पे करना पड़ेगा. अब जीएसटी जो है why GST? Why you need to read or study GST? कभी दिमाग में आ सकता है कि अरे हम तो हमेशा इनकम टैक्स ही पढ़ते हैं, इनकम टैक्स ही सुनते हैं. जनरली लेमैन से आप पूछोगे तो टैक्स में जनरली फॉर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स बिफोर द इंसेप्शन ऑफ जीएसटी के आने से पहले चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स मेन एरिया वाज, प्राइमरी एरिया वाज इनकम टैक्स. और एज चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट से लेमैन भी यही समझता था कि ये इनकम टैक्स में डील करते हैं, इनकम टैक्स का सब बता दें. लेकिन व्हाई दिस इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस इज सो इम्पोर्टेंट. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट एक जो अमेजिंग फैक्ट है इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स के बारे में कि आपको पता है जो गवर्नमेंट की टैक्स रेवेन्यू कलेक्शंस होती हैं उसमें इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस हैज अ हायर शेयर. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स का जो शेयर है गवर्नमेंट की टैक्स कलेक्शंस में, इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स हैज अ वेरी हाई कलेक्शन एज कंपेयर टू डायरेक्ट टैक्स कलेक्शन. इनफैक्ट अगर हम पास्ट ईयर कलेक्शन देखें 2021-22 में तो डायरेक्ट टैक्स का कलेक्शन वाज अराउंड approximately 9,44,000 crores, whereas indirect tax collection was 10,76,000 crores. So it is higher, much higher than the direct tax collection. तो हमारा लॉ इसीलिए भी इम्पोर्टेंट है कि ये गवर्नमेंट एक्सचेकर को काफी ज्यादा रेवेन्यू देता है. इट गिव्स हायर रेवेन्यू टू द गवर्नमेंट एक्सचेकर, गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट, गवर्नमेंट इट गिव्स मोर रेवेन्यू टू द गवर्नमेंट. Then second important point is which makes this tax all the more important for you is that income tax comes into the picture when you start earning something. As a student अगर मैं आपकी बात करूं तो आप लोग अभी इनकम टैक्स नहीं दे रहे हैं, लेकिन इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स आप अभी भी दे रहे हैं. यानी जीएसटी आप अभी भी पे कर रहे हैं. जीएसटी आपको अभी भी इम्पैक्ट कर रहा है. जीएसटी को आप, बिकॉज इट्स अ ट्रांजेक्शन टैक्स, जीएसटी एक ट्रांजेक्शन टैक्स है, हर ट्रांजेक्शन पे लगता है. तो इनकम टैक्स को आप तभी अर्न करोगे जब आप कुछ अर्न कर रहे हो, और अर्न भी एक इस लेवल पे कर रहे हो कि जो कि हमारी एग्जम्पशन लिमिट से आप बाहर जा चुके हो. देन यू विल स्टार्ट पेइंग द टैक्स ऑन इट. बट जीएसटी तो अगर इफ यू आर स्पेंडिंग समथिंग, इफ यू हैव अ स्पेंडिंग पावर, आपने मम्मी से पैसे लेके कुछ स्पेंड किया तो यू आर पेइंग जीएसटी ऑन द पर्टिकुलर आइटम विच यू हैव परचेज्ड. फॉर एग्जांपल, you have gone to a restaurant for eating with your friends. Now you'll be paying GST on it. CGST, SGST will be charged on it. You have purchased a television set for your house. Then on that television set, GST will be charged. Or take a small example, you have got your mobile phone recharged. GST will be charged on that. Another example could be you have availed cellular services. Then GST will be charged. You see, in every aspect of your life, you are being impacted by the GST. GST is impacting a very large number of people. In day-to-day life, we are getting impacted by GST, the rates of GST. That is why GST rates, their rise or their fall, their increase or decrease is so important for us. Because as a layman, I'm more affected by the change in rate of the GST. Another example could be you are purchasing your clothes or for outing, you are buying t-shirts, you are buying trousers or dresses for yourself. You are paying GST on that. So inadvertently or unknowingly, you all are being impacted by GST. You are paying GST on the on whatever items you are consuming, whatever goods you are buying, or the services you are availing. GST is being levied on those things, and you are paying GST also. So I think this will make you think that yes, you should know GST because this is impacting us in day-to-day life, and it is so important for us to know the provisions of GST. In today's session, if you see, we'll be covering the genesis of GST, that how the idea of introducing GST came, till at what time we started it, because it was started long back. In 2006 or 7 it started, and then it took around 10 years for this idea to actually materialize. In 2017, 1st July 2017, this GST law was introduced. So all this, the background of GST will be dealt with. Then we'll discuss the, in fact, Deepak will take you through with all these provisions. I will not go into the technical aspect. So in this today's session or today's class, we'll be discussing the features of GST. That what are it is a destination-based tax, it is a consumption-based tax. Then there is it reduces cascading of taxes. All these things will be discussed. What are the benefits of GST from the erstwhile taxes? Because you know that with GST, a large number of indirect taxes which were existing earlier or before 2017 had been subsumed. So what were the disadvantages we were facing at that time, and what are the advantages or the benefits we had come across by introduction of the GST? And then all these things will be discussed in today's session. And last but not the least will be the constitutional provisions. Because whenever any tax is levied, the power for levying that tax must come from the Constitution of India is the authority which is going to give us the power to levy the tax. So the constitutional provisions are very, very important under any taxation law, and we are going to discuss these provisions. Now, before I start, let me first see if any of you has any query till this time, because this is a general session and this is a general guidance to you all that how you have to study this topic.
So, Shefali ma'am, you can also provide a guidance to the students, either this session or next session, on what all are the topics which is excluded, so that they will be more interested.
Yeah, in fact, students are more interested in what is excluded rather than what they have to study. They first want to know that, yes, what all they don't have to read. So, before that, I can see some queries which students have asked. Sneha has asked that, ma'am, when Finance Minister declared budget on TV, it is billed at that time and then passed in Lok Sabha. She is asking it, and Sneha, you are right, that on 1st February this year also, the Finance Minister had tabled the bill. She had explained the bill through the budget speech, and now this bill will be discussed in both the houses, and when it is passed in both the houses, then it will go to President for his assent, and after that the states will take over it. State legislations will also incorporate those changes in their respective legislations, and then it will become effective. Most of the GST changes particularly doesn't happen so in the customs because it is a central law, but in GST, since it is state, we have state legislations also, so states also have to implement those changes, and then it will become effective. Some students have recommended that I should teach in English because they are not able to understand. But for them, I will again reiterate that whatever I have said in Hindi, I have explained it in English also. I have reiterated it in English also. So don't worry that you have not missed anything. You have not missed any point when I was speaking in Hindi. Now, I want to take you through this exclusions part, which Deepak has stressed, that the topics which will be excluded from your syllabus. They are important because whenever you are studying the chapter, though Deepak is definitely going to take care of these topics, that these topics are not covered, but you as a student should also know that yes, this is not expected from you. This is excluded from the syllabus. And in case you are solving the questions also, then you should restrict yourself to the within the purview of the syllabus only. So, and I will show you that from where you can get these exclusions. These exclusions have been there on the website, ICAI website, by way of the study guidelines, in the name of study guidelines. We have a separate tab for that. Let me show you that how you can approach that, and you also should go through the ICAI website on a regular basis, because you will get a lot many inputs from this website. You will be getting all the publications there, then any announcements are there. So you should make it a habit that you should go through the ICAI website on a regular basis. You will be updated and you will be in touch with the latest announcements which are being made. See, if on the ICAI website, there is a tab of students. On that, we have BOS Knowledge Portal. Once I click on BOS Knowledge Portal, this page will appear. And here, intermediate scheme, paper 4 taxation. And here you are having the second heading, that is study guidelines. Now, these study guidelines, they elaborate that what are the topics which you do not need to refer or which are outside the purview of your syllabus. Let us go through these study guidelines once. First of all, it tells you that what is the applicability of the Finance Act and the notifications and circulars for May 2022 examination. Now, for each examination, we host these study guidelines. These are for May 2022 examination. For November 2022 examination, somewhere after 30th April 2022, we will be hosting the study guidelines for November 2022 examination, considering the amendments which have taken place in these 6 months as well as the earlier provisions. So, first topic which is excluded is from the charge of tax. First is the rate of tax. Now, you're not expected to know the rate of tax or memorize the rate of tax on all goods and services. There is a huge list of goods and services under GST. And just to lighten the burden of the students from memorizing these rates, we have excluded these from the by way of study guidelines. So the rate of tax will be provided to you in the question. In case you have to compute the GST, then the rate of tax will be provided to you in the question. Second is the reverse charge provisions. Now, reverse charge provisions for services. In fact, many of you might not be able to understand what is reverse charge, but you will be understanding it once you are you will be going through these classes. But just to know that reverse charge provisions for goods are excluded by the study guidelines. For services, it is there within the syllabus. Then is the similarly the rates will be for both CGST, SGST, and IGST. They will not be expected from you. Determination of nature of supply. I think this much you all must be knowing that the GST is being levied on the interstate supply as well as intrastate supply. So interstate supply, IGST is being levied, and on intrastate supply, PGST and SGST is being levied. But as a student, you're not, as an intermediate student, you're not expected to determine that whether the transaction is an interstate supply or an intrastate supply, and that will be provided somehow in the question, because this is outside the purview of the intermediate syllabus. And then the OIDAR services, online information and database retrieval services, they are not there in your syllabus. Exemptions for services are within the purview of syllabus, as you must have done, you might not have done, but under service tax also the services exemption was covered. But the goods which were exempt in excise, they were not relevant. Here also the exemption for goods is not in the syllabus. So whatever goods are exempt from GST, you need not, you may know for your knowledge point of view, we can see the list, but you will not be tested in the examination on that point. Then comes the one important point is the change in rate of tax. The time of supply relating to change in rate of tax. So if there is a change in rate of tax, then what will be the time of supply? That is section 14. It is not at the relevant at the intermediate level. In valuation also, only the basic provisions of valuation, section 15 is relevant, but the valuation rules, they have been excluded. In input tax credit, the reversal provision. Now it's very important. This has been done from November 2021 itself, considering the difficulty level of the reversal provisions. Rule 42 and 43 have been excluded. So reversal provision, in fact, this will definitely lighten your burden, because students used to find it very difficult to understand the reversal provisions. So at intermediate level, the reversal provisions will not be tested. And the input tax credit provisions regarding job work, regarding input service distributor, they are not relevant at the intermediate level. In fact, job work provisions, they are not relevant for the intermediate level. Another is the in returns, GSTR 2, GSTR 1A, GSTR 3. These returns, you know that they never came into reality. They never became effective any time. So these returns have been excluded. Then matching principle. Matching principle also had never become effective. Now it has, with this budget, it has already gone. But these will be, so that is why these have been excluded. In payment of tax, PDS and TCS provisions have also been excluded. And regarding the statutory update from 1st May 2021 to 31st October 2021, whatever relevant amendments are there, we have included those amendments in the statutory update. So for those amendments also, you need not refer, you need not go to the CBIC website and see all the amendments at which all are relevant for you. You can only refer the statutory update. The study guidelines specifically provides you that you only need to refer the amendments which are there in the statutory update. They are the amendments which are relevant for you. Then we have this is all about the study guidelines. So study guidelines tells you about the topics which you need not study or which are not relevant for you at the intermediate level. Maybe at the final level, you will be taught all these topics, but at the intermediate level, they are not important, they are not relevant, and they are not within your syllabus. So keep these topics in mind. And one important, another aspect is on BOS Knowledge Portal itself, you have a section-wise and skill-wise weightage also. Every topic which you are studying in this class, you should keep this in mind that what is the weightage, what is the significance allocated to this particular topic in the overall examination, in the paper. In the question paper, each topic has a weightage which is assigned to it, which determines that how significant that topic will be. What marks, for what number of marks this question can be asked. कितने marks के लिए आपको वो question उसमें से पूछे जा सकते हैं. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to study that a particular topic which is less, which is carrying lesser weightage. It doesn't mean that. It is only for you to, while at the time of revising, when you are doing the revision, you have to keep this in mind that what are the topics you have to give more emphasis to. But it nowhere means that you have to leave any topic on the basis of this weightage. This weightage is only to give more emphasis to the topics where there is higher weightage. Now, if you come to the BOS Knowledge Portal homepage, you will find the section-wise and skill-wise weightage. So first is the section-wise weightage for the subjects, and you have to see the section-wise weightage which is relevant from May 2022 examination. And here you have to see the weightage for Paper4B, indirect taxes. Now, if you go through this weightage, you will find that, I'm just discussing this, afterwards you can see this weightage thoroughly. I'm just giving you an idea that how this weightage has been assigned. All the substantive provisions of law, they have been kept under section 1. Section 1, in fact, if you see, it has the highest weightage, 50% to 80%. So if I say कि एक पेपर में more than 50% तो इसी टॉपिक में से मिनिमम आएगा, तो it is very important. This shows that this particular section is the most important section of your entire syllabus. And this section covers the substantive provisions. इसमें सारे जो substantive provisions है वही आपका levy है, basic concept of time and value of supply, then the input tax credit is there, and computation of GST liability. So if you see, if a question comes in the examination for computation of GST liability, then these are the topics which are covered in section 1. They all become very relevant for you. You should be thorough with the definition of supply. Then you should know the reverse charge provisions, because it could be possible that you are computing a GST liability or GST output, the GST liability, and you are providing a service which is being charged under reverse charge. Tax on which is payable under reverse charge. So recipient is going to pay the tax, but so that means you have to exclude it from your GST liability, output GST liability. But unless you know the reverse charge provisions, you will not be able to solve the question correctly. So reverse charge provisions become very important. Then the exemptions. You should know that whether a particular activity or a transaction is exempt from GST or not. That you will come to know from the exemptions. So exemption of tax is very important. So every topic in this section is very important to compute the net GST liability. If you have to compute the net GST liability, you have to be thorough with all the provisions. Input tax credit is very important because then only you can compute the net GST liability. Gross GST liability you can compute before knowing ITC provisions, but after the awareness or after you are conversant with the ITC provisions, you will be able to compute the net GST liability. So you should be thorough with all these topics. The type of questions which are asked in the examination are generally, they are application based. You need to know each and every provision properly, and you have to see that what is the weightage of that topic while revising the syllabus or while revising this subject. Second important section is section 2, and that is the procedural law. What we have covered in section 2 is the procedural law, like registration, tax invoice, then payment is there, returns is there. So this together constitutes section 2, and the weightage of this section is 25 to 40%. So it can extend up to 40% also, but the minimum at least 1/4 of your paper will be constituting from this section. So again, this section becomes very important. And definitely you should know these provisions also, because when you are knowing about GST law, you should know that you will need to first register with GST department, and then after crossing a particular threshold limit, we need to register with them. Then how we will be raising the invoice, how we will be depositing tax with the government. Then on a regular basis, on a periodic basis, we have to file the returns also of whatever we had done during that period. Then section 3. In fact, section 3 covers what we are going to do today, and that is the introductory provisions. So if you see the weightage, you can see that 0 to 5% weightage is there. But this does not make this topic unimportant in any manner, because this topic will lay the foundation of this entire subject for you. So unless you are clear in today's topic, you will not be able to understand the further topics. You should be very attentive in today's class, because it's the most important class. In fact, from understanding point of view, you should know each and everything which will be covered in today's class, because this will give you an idea why this law was introduced, what was the need, what are the benefits, and what is the structure which we have adopted in India. Everything you should be thorough with. But this section has the weightage of 0 to 5%. That is GST law, constitutional aspects, as well as the concept and features of GST law. So this is the section-wise weightage. Now, this gives you an idea that what will be the weightage of each of these sections of this particular subject. Another thing which is provided for your benefit is the skill-wise weightage. Skill, when I say skill, it means that what type of questions will be asked in this particular subject. There are two types of questions which can be asked at the intermediate level. One is the comprehension and knowledge-based questions. Comprehension and knowledge-based questions means that the provision will be asked from you. You will be asked to explain a particular provision, and you have to just reiterate what this provision says. But another skill which is being tested at the intermediate level is the application and analysis-based questions. Application and analysis-based questions means what it implies is that you will be given a situation, a small scenario, or a small application of a particular provision, and you have to apply that provision to that situation and derive the answer. For example, if you are asked that whether a particular transaction or an activity amounts to supply or not, you know the definition of supply very well. If I ask you to reproduce, or if I ask you to explain the supply, you can easily write it. But you should also know how to apply that particular definition or how to apply that particular provision. So you are given few situations, you are given few scenarios, small scenarios, and you are asked that whether the following transactions, following activities, they amount to supply or not. So this is an application of the provision, application of the provision or definition of supply. You can be asked, there could be a situation you can be asked that whether the particular taxpayer is eligible for composition scheme. So you need to know the provisions of composition scheme, that what is his turnover, whether what type of activity he is doing, whether he is a manufacturer or he is primarily a service provider, and along with that he is doing some manufacturing activity. So but for that you should be thorough with the composition provisions, then only you will be able to apply it. So if you see the taxation paper 4, section B in taxation paper is indirect tax laws, and the weightage for the comprehension and knowledge based questions is 20 to 45%. So at least 20% paper will be comprehension and knowledge based, but not more than 45%. In fact, if you see, there is a very high percentage comparatively for the application and analysis based questions, because we want our students to be capable enough to apply the provisions which they are understanding or they are going through. So each and every provision which you are going through, you should be ready to apply that provision to some situation. You need to know the provision as well as its application. An application portion is 55 to 80%. So this is the weightage for the application and analysis based questions. So I think with this we have covered a lot about this paper, and type of questions also. If you see that generally a GST computation question is there, I have already told you that what all provisions you should know when you are computing GST. Each and every provision in section 1 is very relevant for this, so you should be thorough with them. Then simple application based questions from section 2 are there. So from section 3, generally if you see, the questions which can come are generally comprehension and knowledge based type of questions can come, like what are the constitutional provisions which gives power per levy of GST, or what are the types of taxes which are there which have been subsumed into GST, what are the features, what are the benefits. These can be asked from you. So someone has said that my voice is not properly audible, but others have not mentioned this problem. So I hope. Okay, thank you. So for study guidelines, somebody is asking that, ma'am, these are not applicable in exam. Yes, definitely they are not relevant from the examination point of view. So these are the topics you have to keep in mind, that you don't have to study them for your examination. You have been relieved from reading these topics or studying these topics, particularly that reversal provisions. They have been newly introduced from last examination only, from November 21. The reversal of input services as well as capital goods has been excluded from the syllabus. This is not a theory subject, Tanu. It's actually an application, and you have already seen the weightage of the application and analysis based questions. So you need to apply the provisions and you need to compute. If you are taking it as a numerical theory subject because you feel that numerical topics will not be there, that is not so. Numerical questions will be there when you are computing GST liability, when you are computing tax. You need to, or you are computing interest, the tax which you need to be paid on delayed payment. Everything will require computation. So computation questions will also be there. And in exam, can we write the provisions in our own words? Neha is asking, yes, definitely you can write the answers in your own, or the provisions in your own words. You will definitely fetch full marks, but the provision should clearly come out. Sometimes students tend to, the exact sense doesn't come. So in that case, definitely you might lose marks. But if you're writing the proper provision in your own words, you will definitely fetch full marks. So don't worry that you need to write everything verbatim or you need to reproduce the provision. That is not the case. Only thing is that you need to write the things correctly. So with this, I will hand over the session to Deepak, and now he will take you through the session with the technical aspects of the GST. I hope you will make the best use of these classes, this initiative of Board of Studies for all of you. So all the best. So Deepak, now will you take over?
Yes, sure. Your introductory session was really helpful. See the feedback which is received from the students. They're able to actually very good initiative, and they're really helpful that you gave a good guidance to them, and that solves my 50% of the work, that you have done a good start. So students are confident that yes, this session will go on a good spirit. So that's the positive vibes which is more required, that which you have spread across. That is what is essential to start a new topic and start a new subject. Even though indirect tax is only 40 marks, as you rightly pointed out, this will really be a scoring subject, and this will be the paper which can pull them off from the worries what they have in direct taxes. So generally we've seen that direct taxes, the questions are not straightforward. You don't get the exact answer, and it is really complicated. Especially the first question is the lengthiest question, which I've seen in my career. I have not cleared the CA in my first attempt, be franco there, but what I've learned with my repeated attempts is that don't answer the first question. That's the lengthiest question, and that will take away 50% of your time, and then you'll be struggling with the time. So time management is very important.
Yeah, very true, Deepak. In fact, we should first attempt the question which we know the best, instead of going through the question sequentially. This we always advise. So you have very rightly pointed out that we should always start with the question, the best question, instead of first question.
Correct. So go with the question which you feel is really theoretical and which you can score and which you are confident of, answer that, and then move to the tougher question, so that the time management also will be there. And there is a calculation. So you have 100 marks, okay? 100 marks, and you have 300 minutes. You have 3 hours, right? 3 into 60, which is 180 minutes. So 100 divided by 180, which is, 180 divided by 100. So each mark, you should spend only 1.8 minutes. So if it is 10 marks, you spend only 18 minutes on it. That is the importance of time management, how you have to do. Because you have to answer all the 100 marks. If you are prepared in your mind that you will answer only for 60 marks and you will get 40 marks, that is not going to happen in the CA exams. CA exams, the approach is going to be really different. So you have to have this time management. 1 mark is equal to 1.8 minutes. That will be a thumb rule. And don't cross that time. If you are still stuck with that question, you skip that question and move to the next question for which you are confident on. Thank you, Shefali ma'am. I'll start with the technical aspects. You have covered the basic things, so I will not do the repetition on those. What is taxation has been explained in a very well note. I'll move to the next thing. So how is the taxation system there in India? Before we start, a brief introduction about myself. I am Deepak Jain. I am a chartered accountant and a company secretary. I am a practicing chartered accountant from Bangalore, and I've been in practice since 14 years. I have been affiliated with the CA Institute as a faculty, and I have been teaching students on the Board of Studies. This is my, I think this is my 4th session which I'm taking, wherein I started with 1 or 2 sessions, then took a comprehensive full chapter, and now I'll be taking part of the chapter, which are the important provisions, which will be really very relevant for you. Now, what I've seen the feedback received from the students is that they're saying that voice is low and network is not correct. I have been listening to Shefali ma'am's presentations for half an hour, and I didn't find any problem with the voice or any problem with the network. So you will have to keep your networks really good. You just can't rely on a mobile data with a low network. Ensure that your data is really strong, because there is no disturbance. The Board of Studies are ensured that we give a seamless, good streaming. So there is no buffering which should happen. If it is happening, it is not a technical issue at our end. It will be an issue at your network. So make sure that you are having a good network. Okay, if you have a good network, then there will not be any problem. So this IT issues should not become a barrier between you and me. Okay, so ma'am will not be GST. Ma'am will be teaching up some topics. She will give some introductions, some snippets here and there. The topics have been allotted to me from the basics till the input tax credit. So I will be taking you up from the basic introduction of GST. What is GST? What is supply? What is exemptions? When is the GST charged? What is the rate of tax generally? And what is the input tax credit? So input tax credit is very important. It's the backbone of the GST. Any system, it is very important. And input tax credit is the backbone of GST, which you should really concentrate on. Sorry. Some people are using November 2021 study material. If you're using November 2021 study material, I think you can use that, no problem. But you have a statutory update booklet which is there on the Board of Studies. Use that booklet and update your whatever you have November 2001 study material to this updation, because this updates what is there is really important. Generally, we tend to concentrate as a student. I will concentrate on the updates because the examiner will think that am I aware of the updates? If I'm aware, then yes, he will check whether my knowledge level is correct or no. So I will have to see whether the updates I have gone through the updates completely. So if you're using a November 2020 study material, use it, but parallelly supplement it with the updates what you should have been having. Okay. Now we understood what is taxation. Taxation is, I'll go back here. Taxation is not paid by anyone voluntarily. Okay, nobody is willing to pay taxation on his own. That's why it is called as a burden. What kind of a burden it is? It is a pecuniary burden. Pecuniary means which involves money. So if you earn anything, let it be in terms of money, or say you won a cash amount in Kaun Banega Crorepati. So you got a cash amount, so you'll pay taxes on that. Say you got another case of a lucky draw and you have won a car. Okay, is there a pecuniary? Is there a money involved in it? No, money is not involved. Still, okay, it is a benefit which is coming to you. So on the value of the car, that is the value what will come to you. On the value, taxation will be calculated. So you can earn anything in money or in non-monetary terms or in non-monetary terms. Okay, whatever is your earning, that is your earning. On that earning, you will pay taxation in money terms itself. You will not tell, okay, I have received in non-monetary terms, so I'll pay tax also in non-monetary terms. No, that is not possible. Tax is always paid in monetary terms only. Aapko paisa aaya hai ya non-paisa aaya hai. Whatever has come to you, whether it is in terms of cash or non-cash, it is either ways you will have to pay the taxation in monetary terms. So tax is not always paid voluntarily. Tax is a burden. Yes, it is a pecuniary burden. Pecuniary burden laid upon individuals and landowners to support the government, a payment which is exacted by legislative authority. Pehle bhi lagta tha, even earlier. Yes, I also. Yes. So whenever I see the comments, I'll make sure that when I see the comments and the questions in another laptop, I will not talk anything, because as soon as I see the comments, then my voice is not audible. Yeah, I got it. So I will only talk in front of this laptop so that my voice is really audible. But I will have to refer to the questions. So every 15-20 minutes, I will be referring to the questions. Okay. Now coming back. On what is taxation? Taxation is a pecuniary burden. It is not a voluntary payment or donation, but it is an enforced contribution. It is enforced. You might feel that only in India it is enforced. No, in all countries it is enforced. People don't pay the taxes directly. People have to follow a policy of carrot or stick. Correct? We have heard this policy of carrot or stick. Either you give carrot and tell them, okay, you bribe them, you instigate the public to pay the taxes, or you hit it with a stick. Okay, a donkey, it's an example of a donkey wherein you have to make a donkey walk, do your work. You have to either use a stick or a carrot. So that same policy applies even for payment of taxation. Nobody wants to pay the taxation voluntarily, and it is an enforced contribution. It's an imposed contribution exacted pursuant to legislative authority. Based on some legislative authority should be there. Without authority, can taxes be collected? No. Taxes cannot be collected without any authority. When we, at the end of a session, the important topic of constitution provisions, when we read, we'll get to know that there is every act, every charge of taxation should be levied through a charge in the tax. There should be a proper authority. No taxes can be levied without any authorities. So if any taxation has been collected without an authority, cases have gone up to the Supreme Court level. And at that level, if it is gone, it means that there should be a big case, because not all cases go to the Supreme Court. There will be a lot of intermediate cases, intermediate levels. It will go to a appellate authority, then a tribunal, then to the High Court, and then to the Supreme Court. So the levels are like that. If it has gone to the Supreme Court, it means that it is a very, very strong case which has gone. And then they have decided that yes, no tax can be levied without a statutory authority. So there should be authority to collect taxes. What are the tax types in India? There are three types of taxes: direct taxes, indirect taxes, and a tax on tax. Earlier, indirect taxes, we had many things, but now there are only two types of indirect taxes. One is GST and customs duty. And on some small products, there is still excise duty and VAT still levied. But majorly, GST and customs duty is levied, which is the major crux of indirect taxes. In direct taxes, you have income tax, agricultural tax, and corporate tax. There is something called as tax on tax. You know, cess. When you pay income tax, you file your return, you pay cess and surcharge. Those are not separate taxes. These are all tax on the tax itself. So when you collect your income tax on that itself, you pay something called a surcharge and cess. Even in GST, on luxury products, there is a cess. Okay, so these are all tax on tax. Basic major bifurcation is direct taxes and indirect taxes. Direct tax, the incidence is borne directly. I am earning the income. I am a salaried person. I will earn my salary. I will pay the tax. This is a direct tax. In terms of an indirect tax, the incidence of tax is shifted to another person. Somebody was asking. Yes, I will give you some example of the numbers on how is the incidence of tax shifted to another person. In the foregoing slides, I will take you through an Excel sheet, because we are all used to numbers, and I will take you through an Excel sheet and show you how is this incidence of tax shifted to another person. Okay, but for now, as a layman's term, I go and buy as soon as I get up, what do? You brush your teeth. For brushing your teeth, you need a toothpaste. You will go and buy a toothpaste. When you buy a toothpaste, you are paying taxes. How am I paying taxes? I am only paying the value to the shopkeeper. You are paying value to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper sells you the toothpaste at the MRP, maximum retail price. That MRP includes taxes in it. Taxes is inbound in it. Taxes is bundled in it. So he will collect the value of the product as well as taxes on it. He will discharge that taxes on your behalf to the government. So tax is shifted, right? He is selling to you. He should have paid the tax, but he is collecting tax from you. You are a customer. You are paying the taxes in terms of usage. So tax is shifted from the seller to the buyer. The buyer pays taxes to the seller, and the seller pays it to the government. Okay, that is how it is called as shifting of tax from one person to another person. Okay, indirect tax is incidence wherein the tax is shifted from one person to another person. Direct tax is progressive nature. How is this progressive? Your income increases, your tax rate increases. Your income decreases, your tax rate decreases. So it is progressive in nature. As and when your income grows, that is when how the tax rate will increase. Your tax slab also increase. You'll pay more taxes. But indirect tax is not progressive in nature. It is regressive in nature. Why am I saying it is regressive? Let it be that a soap or a toothpaste is purchased by a laborer, or the toothpaste is purchased by a businessman or by a big politician. Everybody pays the same taxes. There is no progressive saying that, okay, my income is more, so I'll pay more taxes. No, if the same product is purchased, the same tax is paid by everyone. So that's the reason it is regressive in nature. Example of direct taxes: income tax And indirect tax, you have examples of GST and customs duty. What is TDS? Okay, you have TDS in direct tax as well as indirect tax. This is not an academic question, but for your interest, I'm asking you, is TDS a direct tax or an indirect tax? Okay. TDS is tax deducted at source. Yes, it is tax deducted at source, but is it a direct tax or indirect tax? Many people, yes, can be more. Yes. Most of it being directly or indirectly. That is correct. But TDS is actually not a separate tax. TDS is tax collected in advance, because when I earn my salary income, okay, say there was no TDS provision at all, I earn my salary income, the employer gave full salary to me. When will I file my return? At the end of the year, right? Full year I've earned, now I pay at the end of the year. The government realized that you are delaying the taxes. You are earning on a monthly basis, but you are paying taxes to me so late. Once the due date comes, no. My government cannot run like this that I will get such a huge money at the end. I need the amount right away. So that's why they brought in this provision of withholding taxes. TDS is also called as withholding taxes, saying that the person who gets the money earns the income. He will earn the income by withholding some tax from his income. When an employer pays salary to an employee, he will pay, say he has 1 lakh of income, he will withhold a TDS of 20,000 rupees. Okay, 20,000, you know the calculation under direct tax, that for salary, the taxation is calculated based on his tax slab. So he will say, in my example, he will withhold 20,000 rupees, pay the 20,000 to the government and pay 80,000 to him. So TDS is a withholding taxation, and it is a kind of direct tax if it is TDS of income tax. If it is TDS of GST, then it's an indirect tax. So TDS provisions are there both under direct tax as well as under indirect tax. So with which kind of levy you are there, that decides whether TDS is a direct tax or an indirect tax. It's basically taxes collected in advance and not waiting for the end. There are 2-3 reasons for this. Tax goes to the government at the earlier stage. The government also gets a control on the recipient, because the recipient's details has to be disclosed to the government, saying that I am withholding taxes. I am deducting taxes from the income of this person. Now that person's details will be submitted, so the government will get to know, okay, this much tax has been withheld from this person's income. Whether that person is disclosing that income correctly or no is the control what government will get. So that's the reason there are a lot of advantages in a TDS deduction for the government. Now, what all the taxes which got subsumed in the GST? We all know this, but we'll just brief this. Under CGST, so now you have 3 taxes: CGST, SGST, and IGST. Very well, everybody knows this, but if for people who do not know, for them, I'm explaining this, that what is a tax where you will levy if you have 3 types of taxes. You have 3 types of taxes: CGST, SGST, and IGST. There are 2 types of transactions which can happen. One is called as interstate transaction, wherein I make any transaction from this state to another state. I am staying in Karnataka. From Karnataka, I will sell something to Maharashtra. So Karnataka to Maharashtra, whatever I am selling, this transaction is called as an interstate transaction. On this interstate transaction, what taxes has to be levied? It is an interstate transaction. IGST has to be levied. Okay. In an interstate transaction, only one tax has to be levied, which is called as IGST. Now, the full form of IGST is not interstate goods and service tax. IGST, the full form is Integrated Goods and Service Tax. Why is it not an interstate and it's an integrated tax? Because it integrates the local taxes which is to be paid. It integrates the CGST and SGST which needs to pay it otherwise on an intrastate transaction. So we have understood interstate transaction. Now we will understand what is an intrastate transaction. What is an intrastate transaction? A transaction happening within the states. I am in Bangalore within the state of Karnataka. I am selling something to a place in Hubli. Hubli is a city within the state of Karnataka. When I'm transferring any goods from Bangalore to Hubli, I will charge CGST and SGST. On all this intrastate transactions, CGST and SGST is levied. Okay, if the rate of tax is 18%, I will levy 18% on the transfer from Karnataka to Maharashtra. If it is a transaction which is leviable to same 18%, but an intrastate transaction, then 9% will be CGST, 9% will be SGST. Okay, that is how the taxation works. So if they just tell in the exam that the GST rate is 18%, and they tell you GST, don't do 18 plus 18. 18 means the rate is 18%, CGST is 9%, SGST is 9%. If they say the rate is 5% on the product, then 2.5% will be CGST and 2.5% will be SGST. Now, how is it determined whether it is an interstate transaction or intrastate transaction? You don't have to worry about that. Shefali ma'am clearly said that you don't have to look into the place of provisions, place of supply provisions. The place of supply will determine whether it is an interstate or an intrastate. So in the question, it will be mentioned that it is an interstate transaction or an intrastate transaction. Based on that, you can decide if it is an interstate transaction, you will collect IGST. If it is an intrastate transaction, you will collect CGST and SGST. Clear? Now, what are all the taxes which got subsumed under CGST and SGST? CGST means Central Goods and Services Tax. In the Central Goods and Services Tax, what all got subsumed? Earlier service tax, earlier excise duty, ADE is additional duty of excise, the surcharge and cess, all of that levied on of all of these excise duties, all of that got subsumed as CGST. Under the SGST, that is a State Goods and Service Tax, you have all the local VAT, your purchase taxes, your entry tax, luxury tax, which were levied, all of that got subsumed under SGST. But what is left out from this? There is something called as a professional tax. A professional tax is a tax which you pay on your salary income or on a professional who's doing any profession, he pays yearly professional tax. That professional tax is not subsumed over here. Okay, the property tax is not subsumed. Okay, so those are the two major taxes, and the tax on properties, when you buy and sell anything, okay, you pay stamp duty, that tax is not subsumed. So these are the major taxes which is not subsumed under GST. Okay, that is apart from that, other taxes are got subsumed. CGST, SGST. What is subsumed under IGST is your central sales tax. When you used to have an interstate transaction, earlier there was something called as a CST tax. That is, instead of VAT, you used to pay central sales tax. That has got subsumed under IGST. And your countervailing duty and special additional duty. When you import something, you had to pay countervailing duty and SAD. That is called subsumed, and you will pay IGST. Okay. So now we know that on my interstate transaction, I will pay IGST. On my intrastate transaction, I will pay CGST and SGST. Now, what will I pay when I do any import or export? When I import something, I will pay customs duty. Earlier, I used to pay customs duty plus this CVD and SAD. Okay. I used to pay this CVD and SAD. When I pay customs, before GST came into picture, before GST came into picture, I used to pay customs duty on my imports and CVD and SAD. But now under GST, what will I pay? I have told clearly that CVD and SAD is subsumed. So what will be the taxes which I pay? I'll ask you two questions. What will the taxes which I pay when I import? Okay, you have to tell me correct answer. What are the two taxes which I will pay on my import of goods? Second scenario, I have imported the goods from a different state, then it's fine. But if I import it in my same state, say in my state of Karnataka, there is a port in Mangalore. So I can ship something from Dubai to Mangalore. From Mangalore, I can get it here. Now, Mangalore and Bangalore, both are in Karnataka. So in that scenario, what taxes will I pay? Okay, I'll repeat my question. Two questions. What taxes do I pay when I import? Okay. And second question, when I do an intrastate import, then what taxes do I pay? नहीं क्वेश्चन पूछा है 30 को 7:30 में. What is AD? Somebody is asking what is AD. AD is additional duty of excise. Okay. What is cess? Is a tax on tax. So to understand some thing under under direct tax, what is cess? Apart from the direct tax, I will charge something extra. Okay, I will charge a surcharge and a cess. That is a percentage called as cess. Okay, that tax is called as a cess, wherein it will be used for specific purposes. Now you have Swachh Bharat cess. So which means this is a special tax which is collected by the government for special purpose. That is the special taxes which is collected on a tax is called a cess. In GST, what do we have a cess? Say in terms of rated products or cold drinks, when we buy, the tax rate is 28% plus 12% cess. So I will be paying 28% plus 12%. So this is the additional tax which is collected by the government, which is called as cess. Here, Ms. Aditi. Jay Prakash, your question on why indirect tax when there is direct taxes. If there is no indirect taxes, then the rate of direct taxes will go up. Now we are paying a tax slab of 10%, 20%, 30%. Now the government needs to balance and needs to get revenue from everybody. Not everybody pays direct taxes. Okay. If you have seen the statistics, what the finance minister presents, the number of taxpayers vis-a-vis the population of India, there is a lot of difference. Not everyone pays taxes. So the government needs revenue, okay, for all the economic activities. When you do any sale transaction, when you provide any services, when you do any kind of commercial transactions, there is a commercial transaction, but people are paying money for it. So government is finding that indirect taxes is one of the good ways to collect revenue. If you see the revenue numbers, 50% is direct taxes, 50% is indirect taxes. So government needs to collect revenue through indirect ways, therein the customer does not feel the pinch of the taxes. That's the reason government has to have this GST. Earlier, there were a lot of lacunas under the old service tax, excise, VAT. To come away with all of the lacunas, the GST has been come into picture. Okay. Everybody, okay, you've got given answer. Question 1, import duty. Question 2, GST and SGST. We have high need of indirect. When we import goods, there is nothing called, let me clarify that there is nothing called import duty. Import duty is the slang word which we used for customs duty. So when we import something, we pay customs duty. Yes, we saw that customs is still existing. So customs duty will pay on import. Yes, that's the correct thing. But apart from customs, I said that this countervailing duty and special additional duty is subsumed as IGST. So when we do any import transaction, we pay two types of taxes. One is basic customs duty and we pay IGST. Okay, so when we do any import transaction, we'll pay basic customs duty and we will pay IGST. Clear? Apart from payment of these two things, is there anything else? No, only two things: basic customs duty and IGST. Now, that is the scenario of my import of, say, from Tamil Nadu to Karnataka. Tamil Nadu port, say I have imported something. The import shipment has come to Tamil Nadu. From there, I have cleared something to Karnataka. So I am paying customs duty and IGST. Now, the second scenario of Bangalore to Bangalore, both are within the state. So should I pay CGST and SGST? People don't get confused. On any import transaction, you will always pay customs duty plus IGST itself, irrespective of the pace of your clearance. Because on the import, the power to collect taxation is only with the central government. Because what will happen if that scenario happens? I will see that my state cuts more revenue and the state government will start encouraging that, okay, you do more clearance from my state, so I will get more taxes. To avoid all of this and to play a level playing field for all the states within the country and to give a uniformity across it. So they've said that when you import, okay, the power is with the central government and the central government will charge IGST itself. So when you clear, even if the Bangalore to Bangalore example, even if it is an intrastate transaction, but Bangalore is not selling anything to me. There is nobody sitting over there. I am only using that as a clearing. So once I'm clearing from that port, I will still pay IGST itself. So don't get confused. On your import transactions, you will always pay customs duty plus IGST. What will you pay on your exports? On exports, you don't pay anything. Exports are zero rated. So on exports, you don't pay anything. On your imports, you pay customs duty and IGST always. Now, few questions. What is CVD and SAD? Earlier, there was something called as countervailing duty, wherein if somebody is importing something and they're importing at lower rate, okay, but the same person is doing a manufacture in India, on the manufacturing, I am paying excise duty. So to bring a similar competition amongst these two people, saying that import from other countries should be discouraged. So equivalent to this excise duty, one tax used to be levied on my import, which was called as CVD or countervailing duty. Okay. Then they said, okay, on my local transaction, I'm also paying VAT. So how will I compensate on my import? They brought another tax called special additional duty. SAD is special additional duty that is equivalent to the VAT rate. I will levy something called as a SAD on my import. Special additional duty are at the rate of 4%. That was the standard rate. So on my import, I used to pay customs duty, countervailing duty, and special additional duty. And if there were some anti-dumping products, like earlier China used to dump a lot of products in India. So we used to get a lot of Chinese products, then the Indian manufacturers used to suffer. That's the reason there was something called as an anti-dumping duty which was levied. So that was also levied on the import of my anti-dumping goods. So those were all the taxes which were levied earlier. All of that has gone and now you have only IGST. What is entry tax? When there is an entry from one state to another state, say for machinery products or some specified products, when you used to do any transfer between one state to another state, there was a entry tax which was levied in certain specified states. That is what was called as entry tax. That is also gone now. Is it true that earlier times on import of goods more than 100% was levied? Yes. more than 100%, it was levied. It was a time when on purchase of some specified products, India was never a liberalized scenario, wherein this discouraged imports. And when you used to import a car or something, the import tax, even now if you see some products, the import duty is equivalent to 100%, because they want to encourage import of such goods. They want make in India encouragement. So some products they will still discourage by levying duty up to rate of 100%. Customs duty for import and export. Great. What is surcharge? Surcharge is a tax on tax itself, wherein if your income crosses certain specified limit, then there was something called as a surcharge, which is still levied under income tax. So surcharge is also a tax on tax. Now going forward, we have features of GST. What is GST? What is features of GST? But before this, let us understand the GST, how it happened. First, so GST, what we are seeing, it's implemented when? It implemented in 2017. But that did happen just like that, okay, in one budget, they said, okay, we're doing GST and they got it. No, it was not a one budget's affair or overnight effort. So it was a long process. It started way back in 2000. In 2000, when the Vajpayee government started discussion on GST by setting up an empowered committee. A committee was set up in 2000. Okay, then what happened? Announcement of GST for the first time was made in finance minister during the budget of 70. From 2000, nothing happened. Then empowered committee was set up. Then in 2006, they said that in the budget of 2006, that we will bring something called as GST. Then some discussion paper had come in 2009. Then the actual thing started in 2011, wherein the constitution, they realized that we cannot bring the GST without amending the constitution. Why can't we bring the GST without amending the constitution? You know, we will come to that, but give you a brief. There were clear demarcation between the center's power and state's power. State government always collected VAT. They were heavily relying on the VAT, and the central government was heavily relying on excise duty and the service tax, saying that any service you provide in your state or outside the state, you pay service tax for the central government. State government used to collect VAT on in all of the sale of goods. Services was going to the center and sale used to go to the state government. That was how their powers was there under constitution, saying that we have list 1, list 2, list 3 of the 7th schedule. There was something called as the 7th schedule in the constitution. In the 7th schedule, list 1 was there. List 1 used to give powers to the central government. In the 7th schedule, list 1, there was mention of service tax and there was mention of excise duty. So central government could collect it. Now there was a list 2. In the list 2, there was sale tax on sale of goods that was collected by the state government. Ye do taxes ho gaye. Now GST has to be an integrated tax. There cannot be running a dual GST kind of a thing, saying that, okay, I will charge GST, central government will collect taxes on the services, and state government will collect GST on the goods. That will not work out. If that has to be worked out, then why change it? Earlier thing itself was correct. There was no credit flow between the state government and the central government. Whenever I used to buy any services, okay, I used to buy goods. Whenever I used to sell services, I'm a chartered accountant, I provide services, I will charge service tax. But if I buy things like this laptop, when I buy the stationery, when I buy goods, when I buy laptops, when I buy this calculator, I used to pay VAT. Now that on the VAT purchase, I used to pay VAT tax also. Now when I used to pay the taxes, I never used to get that credit. So that was the biggest thing that is called as cascading of taxes. What is cascading of taxes? Tax on taxes. I used to buy so many things. I used to pay taxes. I used to make this as a component in my costing. In my costing, say on the value of the goods is 100. Because of the taxes, it became 110. and on this 110 I will again pay taxes. So this was tax on tax effect. To bypass this, to take away this, GST had come in. Okay, so GST is not just shift from the earlier taxes, shift in the name or something like that. There's a drastic shift in the scenario of how we do business, how the taxation is levied and collected. That's the reason GST became a major chunk, major revolution which had to come in. Now, to bring this change, the constitution did not have this power. They had list 1 and list 2 and list 3. Nowhere they said both of them can work out together. There was a concurrent list, but concurrent list also had its own limitation. The list 3, what I was saying, is a concurrent list. Now, in that concurrent list, I cannot bring up things just like that. So they said that we have to make a change in the constitution to give powers of taxation to be collected both by the center and the state. So this is to be a comprehensive tax. No, none of the countries had this. Even in USA, if you see, you don't have a comprehensive GST. In Brazil and Canada, you have comprehensive GST. So very few countries have a comprehensive GST, wherein because of our federal system, we have a federal system wherein the major power is there with the central government and some powers are distributed to the states. Now, if both center and state have to work together, there has to be a change in the constitution. That's when the constitution amendment was required, and the constitution amendment happened through passing of the bill. So first, a bill is passed. Once the bill gets approved on the Lok Sabha and the Raj Sabha and the president gives the assent, it becomes an act. So 15th bill was introduced in 2011 and it had some time limitations and it got lapsed. So 2011 constitution amendment did not happen. Then in 2013, Goods and Service Tax Network, a private company, was set up. Why it was set up? The government was sure that GST had to come in. To work with the GST working, we need some network, we need some software. So that's when the GST, a private company, was set up to provide the IT background for the GST. Because GST cannot run on the traditional methods of paper returns and things like that. It has to be on an online basis. That's when the GST network was set up. Then again, the Constitution 122nd Amendment Bill was introduced. This time, will it get passed? Yes. In August 2016, it got passed. And this became the Constitution's 101st Amendment Act. Bill numbers will be different because not all bill gets passed. So bill number ka series will be different. Act number series will be different. It was after 121st Amendment, 122nd Amendment came. Then it got converted. It got passed in August 2016. And we have got this Constitution's 101st Amendment Act, which was enacted. Okay, so we know that in August 2016, the stepping stone was laid and they said that, okay, we'll bring the GST. First GST Council meeting was held. What is GST Council? This is also there in the Constitution. They said that what powers will be there to the GST Council and things like that. So they set up a GST Council. First meeting started in September 2016. In March 2017, GST Council recommended that we will have 3 types of taxes: CGST, SGST, IGST, CGST. Wherever there is state, that will be SGST. But where there is a union territory, it will be UTGST. And then a compensation cess will be there. April 2017, all these acts were passed. The CGST, IGST, UTGST were passed. Then the rates were set up in May 2017. Now, when the GST has to come in, it is a comprehensive tax. It is not a single tax levied by the central government. It has to be levied by the state government also. So central government and state government, both, any act has to be passed on the central government. It will be passed by the Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha. If it is passed at the state government, it has to be passed by the state legislative assembly. The state legislative assembly also has to pass. So each of the states had to pass that respective states GST Act. Like in Karnataka, it is called as Karnataka Goods and Service Tax Act. In Kerala, it is called the Kerala Goods and Services Tax Act. So this state has to approve it in its legislative assembly. By June 2017, all states except Jammu and Kashmir passed their respective SGST Act. They said, okay, my state is ready. My SGST Act is ready. CGST Act was already ready. Now SGST Act also is ready. So CGST and SGST both will work together. Jammu and Kashmir also came in later on. By 30th June, 18th Council meeting was there. Before GST Act came itself, the GST Council used to meet so frequently, and that's when the GST came in very swiftly. On 1st July 2017, GST Act was implemented because by June 2017, all the states were passed. and they said we'll keep a fix of one day when the GST will come. That day was 1st July 2017 when the GST was launched. Subsequently, the Jammu and Kashmir also, within a difference of 8 days, they also passed in the Legislative Assembly, and the GST Act was passed in that state also. So effectively, all the states have the respective SGST Act, and the CGST Act is already there. Okay, so these two taxes will work in parallel. Yes, Parth, you're correct. Wherein Elon Musk also, when he tried to import a car, it became very costly because his car is, when you import, it was, they said that the rate of taxes was close to 100%. If we import, another question from Pooja, if we import from foreign, then customs duty and CGST, and if we import Gujarat to Assam, then customs duty and SGST. If Vadodara to Ahmedabad, then IGST. Am I right? No. This is really confusing. When you import from foreign, then it is customs duty and IGST, not CGST, customs duty and IGST. Your second question is, if we import from Gujarat to Assam, there is nothing called import from Gujarat to Assam. Import means importing from a foreign country. Movement of goods from one state to another state is not an import. It is the movement. Okay, so when you import from a foreign country, you pay customs and IGST. Simple thing. There is also 5% GST in UAE. Yes, Parth, there is 5% in UAE. Okay, so we'll take a break of around 5 minutes and we'll assemble at 7:38 or around 7:40. Till the time, you can keep posting your questions. I'll come early and answer those questions. We're taking a break now. Sure. The question was whether GST has to be state GST has to be passed at the president and both houses of parliament. No, state GST has to be passed by the respective state legislative assembly itself and does not require the approval of the president. Then the next question is, what is road tax? That is the toll. What we pay toll, is it a direct tax or an indirect tax? It's actually a kind of royalty what you pay for using that road. So it is a kind of a direct tax because you are using that road, but that tax is not subsumed under GST. So that's a different tax which is being levied. Do we have to learn the origin chart of GST? In your MCQs, it may come up, not otherwise. Can there be a question like explain genesis of GST in India? Yeah, they could ask because even though the weightage in this is less, they could just as a teaser they can ask this question. Now, goods are imported in Gujarat and then moved to Maharashtra. Then interest along with IGST? No. When you import something, there will be only one tax of IGST. For movement of that goods, there will not be a separate tax which will be levied. So when you import, you will import to your place. So it could be from any port to your place. From there to your place, you will always pay only IGST. You will not pay CGST or SGST again. Very good question. Good approach. So answer is you will pay only one tax. We pay GST to the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper he bought those goods. Will it be considered a double taxation? Vardarajan, very good question. When I pay to the shopkeeper, shopkeeper also has purchased it and paid the taxes. So will there be that he has also paid the taxes? I will also pay the taxes. So tax on the same toothpaste paid twice? No. The IGST is the backbone, I said, right? So when he purchases, that is called as the input tax credit for him. So the input tax credit, which he will use that, and then he will take this taxes, offset this. Okay, on my sale, whatever taxes I collect, I don't pay this full taxes to the government. If I am selling something at 100 rupees and I'm collecting tax at 10 rupees, this 10 is my output tax. I will reduce the input tax which I have paid on my purchase. Say I have paid on that purchase 8 rupees. So I will deduct this 8 rupees and I will pay to the government only 2 rupees. So that's where GST is a value added tax, which is a tax on my value addition. It could be value addition in terms of margin or value addition in terms of services. On my value addition is what I pay the GST upon. GST बनाने के पीछे tax maker because of government direct tax method से भी tax recover कर सकती है. PGBP में goods और service आ जाएगा, फिर indirect tax क्यों लेते आई government का लॉजिक होगा इसके पीछे. This is the question which is posed to me multiple times. It is in Hindi language. That's the reason I had to use the Hindi language. So I've told you what is the reason of the GST coming into picture. Not everybody pays direct taxes. There is a lot of tax leakages. To avoid the tax leakages, government has to bring in the indirect taxes. That's the reason indirect taxes has been running. In case of export, GST is not charged. No, in terms of exports, GST is also not charged and export duty is also not charged. In case of interstate movements, only IGST is charged. Yes, in terms of in case of interstate movement, only IGST is charged. Okay, when I look at the other screen, my voice becomes low, but the other screen has the question, so I will read the question, I'll answer it here. Okay, so let's move ahead now. So we are discussing on the features of taxation. Features of this GST taxation. It is an important source of revenue. We have seen in the budget that there has been a substantial collection of revenue. How much is the collection of revenue? 1.6 lakh crores of GST has been collected in January itself. So 1.6 lakh crores is a substantial amount, highest tax collection in January from the state of inception. So it is a very important source of revenue to the government. It is a tax on commodities and services. Earlier there was service tax on services, VAT and CST on goods. But now there is one tax, GST. Of course, the rates will be different because this country cannot have one rate for all goods and services. One nation, one tax is a very, very theoretical thing. If the government brings one nation, one tax, some people who are having lower rate, some people are having zero rate, they will go on strike. The government does not want the taxes to be a hurdle for anybody. So they have brought in the taxes with various rates because economically poor people are people who are using small essential commodities, food items. They have to be exempted. They cannot levy taxes on food items. On vegetables, they cannot levy taxes. That's why there is 0% rate. Then some products which are essential products, on that 5% has to be rate. Then some mediocre products, 12%. A standard rate of 18%. Then a luxury product of 20%. That's the reason there will be a different rates, but taxes, one type of taxes is collected. So if I provide my service interstate or I sell goods interstate, it will be IGST itself. It will not differ. It will be IGST, but the rate will differ. Now, so that's the reason it is a tax on commodities and services. The nature of tax will remain same. The rate will change. It is shifting of burden. We have seen the shifting of burden in the case of the shopkeepers. The shifting of burden happens in any indirect tax. GST is also one of them. There's no perception of direct pinch. When you buy goods, small goods, if something is collected by the way, 1 rupee, 2 rupee, along with it, we don't bother, right? So even in rounding off, when you switch in a certain auto, 59 rupees is the meter. You don't mind paying 60 rupees, right? Similarly, when you buy commodities, if the tax is collected in small things like this, that ultimately adds up to a bigger thing to the government, but there's no perception of direct pinch because I am not facing the direct pinch. Now, if I earn 1 lakh rupees and the government asks me 20,000 rupees, I feel, oh, I have to pay this 20,000 rupees. But when I buy a luxury product, I have to pay 18%. I don't feel the pinch. So there is no perception of direct pinch in terms of a GST levy. It is inflationary because why is it inflationary? As and when the price of the product goes up, the rate of tax goes up. It is not that if the product is charged, the value of the product is 100 rupees, I will pay 5 rupees. And if the product is 150, I'll still pay 5 rupees. No, that's not the case. If the product is 100 rupees, I'll pay 5 rupees. If the price of the product goes up to 150 rupees, I'll pay 7 rupees 50 paisa. Correct. So as and when the value of the service or the value of the goods goes up, my rate of tax will same. The value of the tax will increase. That's the reason it is an inflationary tax. As and when the value goes, the tax rate, the tax value increases. The rate of tax remains same. Okay, so that's the reason it is an inflationary tax. It provides a wider tax base because everybody is covered. Not only a person having a PAN, not only a person who is registered under GST has to pay GST. A person who is not registered under GST also will pay GST. A person who is registered also will pay a GST. The difference is a person who is registered under GST, if he pays GST to the supplier, he will get the credit of it. But as an end customer, okay, I buy so many things as an end customer. I buy toothpaste, I buy toothbrush, I go to a hotel, I eat food. There, I don't claim the GST because there I'm not using any of these services for my business purposes. So I'm not registered there. So it covers everybody who's having who was whether registered or unregistered, whether it's a big class, labor class or anything. So it has a wider tax. Okay. It promotes social welfare. How does it promote social welfare? By levying taxes on sin goods, right? The tobacco products. By levying more taxes, it discourages people to use tobacco. That's how it promotes the social welfare. And people who are using goods like staple food, rice, okay, wheat, on that they will not levy any taxes. That's how they promote the social welfare, because a socially unwell person also needs to come up in the society, so no taxes is levied on that. So they will identify the economic conditions and then they will levy the taxes. It is regressive in nature, not progressive in nature. As we have discussed, it is not progressive because as and when my income increases, will I pay more taxes? No. because a person, the rate of tax is same for anybody or everybody. So if the same product is purchased, if I buy this mobile phone, the rate of tax for me is also same. If Anil Ambani goes, for him also the the tax what will be charged on this mobile is same. That's the reason it is said as it is opposite of progressive, it is regressive in nature. Okay. Now, more about GST. GST is also called as VAT in some countries. You either call as GST or you call a VAT. VAT means value addition taxes, value added taxes. So it could be called as GST or it could be called as VAT, because the term GST is a general term. It can also be called as VAT in some countries. GST is introduced in around 160 countries. So India, when it came in, before India brought in GST itself, there were other countries which had brought in. So overall, I could say that 160 countries have GST in India. The first GST was bought by France way back in 1954. Most country follows unified GST. There is no dual GST. In India, we have a concept of dual GST, wherein center and state both levies taxes on the same transactions. So when you do an intrastate transaction, you pay CGST and SGST. That is an example of dual GST. Brazil, Canada also follow this dual GST. India too has a dual GST due to its unique federal structure. Yeah. Now, concept of GST in India, it is a value-added tax. There's a continuous chain of tax credits. How is it a continuous chain of tax credit? A person who manufactures, he will manufacture and sell it to the wholesaler, and the wholesaler buys this. When the wholesaler buys this product from the manufacturer, whatever taxes is levied, he will get the credit of this. He will take this credit and pass it on. He will sell this to the retailer. The retailer, when he buys this, whatever taxes is levied by the wholesaler, that becomes a credit for the retailer. The retailer, when he passes on to the customer is unregistered, he will bear the burden. Till the person is not registered, it is always a chain. It ends when the end customer buys it. So the burden is ultimately borne by the final customer, and there is no cascading of taxes, means there is no taxes on tax. How is this no cascading? How is this numbers? Things what I was saying, we'll find it through an example here. Okay. Okay. In pre-GST, what used to happen and what happens in case of post-GST, we'll see, so that we'll get to know how this GST works. In pre-GST, a manufacturer had to sell some goods. He will sell at 10,000 rupees. He was levying excise duty of say 10%. So that was the value, 11,000 was the value. So then I have to levy VAT also. Now this VAT of 14%, will I levy on 10,000? No, VAT said that you have to levy VAT on sale value and excise duty. Correct? That was how the VAT used to work, saying that you don't have to pay VAT. You should not calculate the value for the purpose of VAT on your sale value. You have to calculate the VAT on your sale value plus excise duty value. So there was to be a tax on tax. On this, I've already paid tax of 1,000. On this 1,000, I'm paying again tax. So this is what is called as a cascading of taxes, which is tax on taxes. VAT was a tax which was levied on the excise duty again. So ideally, it should be 14.5% on 10,000, right? But the VAT didn't work on like that. It always worked as a tax on the tax itself. So I had to pay tax of 14.5% on the sale value plus excise duty value. Okay. Now this manufacturer, when he used to sell it to the distributor, he used to sell it at 15,000 rupees. A distributor will not get he will charge only VAT because he is not a manufacturer, so he does not have to pay excise duty. Excise duty was levied only on the activity of a manufacturer. So when a person used to manufacture something, he used to charge excise duty. So this distributor used to sell at 15,000 rupees. On this, VAT was charged at 14.5%. Will he get credit of this excise duty? No, because he is not a person registered under excise duty. So this 1,000 became a cost for him. So that's when we are saying that cascading of taxes was there. On this 1,000, there was no input tax credit. He used to get credit only of the VAT portion. Okay, so he used to get credit of this VAT portion, and this was his ultimate costing, which was working out. Then the retailer used to sell at 18,000. He used to charge at VAT at 14.5%. He will get the credit of 1,595, and the ultimate cost to the customer should be 20,610, which is sale value plus the VAT what was charged. He never used to get the credit of this. Okay, then this was the scenario in the VAT under the old regime. Now what happens under GST regime, which is under GST, sale value, excise duty is not there, excise duty is removed. So directly GST say on this product, if it is levied at 5%, then I will just charge GST at 5% and done. When the distributor receives it, wow, he can sell at 14,000. Earlier used to sell at 15,000. Now because his costing has come down, his input tax credit will be 500 rupees. So his costing comes down, he will charge 5% and he will get credit of this 500. Earlier his costing used to be how much? 10,000 plus 1, 11,000. Because this excise duty, he never used to get the credit. Now he will get the credit of the taxes. So his costing was 10,000. Under GST, his costing is reduced 10,000. So he can sell at a lower price to the customer. When the customer sells this, when this comes to the retailer will sell at 17,000 rupees. He will charge GST at 5%. Then his input tax credit he will get it. So this is how the chain of GST works. Sir, why alcohol is not charged under GST? Because there is a state excise duty which is involved in purchase of alcohol. When you buy any alcohol, there is something called as a state excise duty which is levied, which is a substantial revenue to the state government. The state governments did not want to leave it. That's the reason GST on alcohol is not yet levied. Is GST included in the MRP? Yes. MRP, when you say GST is also included in that. So nobody can charge you GST in addition to the MRP. What is GST registration? One of the students have asked. GST registration means taking registration under GST. We will have this chapter of GST registration. That time you will understand who should take the registration, why should one take registration. That doubt will be clarified. What is input? When I purchase something, when I buy something for use of my business, on which I will charge GST, that is my input. So anything which I purchase, which I will be using for my business directly or indirectly, any taxes paid on my purchases or on my expenses is called as input. Cess can we claim? Yes, cess can be claimed by a person who is levying cess, not otherwise. Which means if I am using cold drinks for my business, I am doing employee welfare, I am buying some cold drinks, then if some cess is levied, I am not charging cess because I am not selling that as a cold drink. I am selling it, giving it to my employees, right? So when I'm not charging cess, I cannot claim the credit of cess. Cess can be claimed by a person who is buying something and selling something and charging cess. Only that person can claim it. Is GST charged on petroleum? No, GST is not yet charged. The prices of the products what we are buying today and the prices what right 5 years also it is the same. So how is it is got reduced? See, if it was not GST, then the prices would have increased. There is something called as anti-profiteering, that if somebody is doing any profit because of GST, then in the initial years, they said that you can report it. There were a lot of cases which went to the anti-profiteering authority saying that this MNC company is buying something at a lower price. After GST came in, they should reduce the price. They have not reduced. So they did a comparison. Then they reported to the government, and government said that you have to reduce your price. And there have been a lot of companies which have reduced their prices after GST. Okay. We understood the concept of VAT. Now we'll get into the next topic, which is why itself GST was required. A lot of people are asking question why GST and all. So we'll understand what was the deficiency under the VAT system. Okay, double taxation on single transaction. Like there were some activities wherein the tax rate was not clear. Suppose I'm selling software. Whether software is a goods or a service was the biggest question. So the government came up, state government said that you pay me VAT, and service tax, the central government said you pay me service tax. So then they came up with the scenario saying that we'll do a bifurcation. On 70% of the value you pay service tax. So of course balance 30% should be VAT, right? But it was not exactly matching that. Okay, 70 and 30. 70% you used to pay VAT and 50 to 60% you used to pay service tax. So there was more taxes than 100% tax which was got levied because there was no handshake between the service tax and the VAT authorities. So that's the reason, say on software activities or on construction contracts, they used to pay huge taxation, double taxation also. So they were double taxation on a single transaction. I am supplying only software. I am only supplying only construction services. Why I should pay double taxation? That was the scenario before GST, wherein double taxation used to exist. There used to be double taxation which was levied. Okay, that's the reason to do away with that. GST had come into picture. No SENVAT after manufacturing state. In the example, Excel example, we have seen that manufacturer used to charge excise duty, but the wholesaler or the distributor never used to get the credit because he was not registered under the excise. So if he was not registered under excise, he never used to get the credit. So that used to be an additional cost for him. No SENVAT was available after the manufacturing stage. Then there was no set off between SENVAT and VAT. So anybody who's charging SENVAT is also another name for excise duty. So if somebody used to charge excise duty, after that excise duty, I couldn't claim that credit of excise to pay my VAT. And we have seen that VAT was levied on SENVAT again. There has to be a scenario of VAT on VAT. Similarly, there was no integration between VAT and service tax. I gave you this example that I am a service provider. I am buying any goods. On the goods, what input tax I pay, I cannot claim the credit of that. So I cannot claim there was no integration between my VAT purchases and my service tax. Similarly, if I'm a trader, I am dealing in purchase and selling of goods. If I get any service of a specialized agency, if I get a service of a marketing agency who is doing marketing for my business, he will charge me service tax. Can I claim the credit of this under earlier law? No, because he will charge me service tax. There was no provision to claim service tax credit on my VAT transactions. So I wouldn't have got the credit. But under GST, if I'm taking any service, the other person will charge me CGST, SGST or IGST, that I can claim a credit against my sale of goods. So in GST, that's possible. But these were the deficiencies which were there under the earlier system. Non-inclusion of local levies in state VAT means there used to be something called as luxury tax and entertainment tax. Even though these were levied by the state government itself, entertainment tax was levied on any entertainment activities. Luxury tax used to pay on any stay at a hotel and things like that. But even though these were levied by the state government, and if I am I'm registered under VAT, these luxury tax and entertainment tax, I couldn't claim the credit. So that was again another lacuna. Then there were cascading of taxes, which means levy of non-VATable CST. When I do any interstate purchases, excuse me. When I do any interstate purchases earlier, I have to pay central sales tax, which is called as CST. On this CST, the rate was very low, which was gone from 4%, 3% to 2%, but still that was an additional cost to me. I never used to get the credit of that. So when I purchase anything interstate, I never used to get the credit. Then inclusion of SENVAT in the value for imposing VAT, which you have seen the example. When somebody manufactures, he will charge excise duty, he will add both the values, and then he will charge VAT. So there was these two are the examples of cascading of taxes, which means there used to be a tax on tax. So these were the deficiencies which were there under the earlier law. Okay. Now, before getting into the next topics, we'll get into the important provision. Then we'll come back to the other topics of framework of GST in India. How is the GST working? What are the advantages and disadvantages? That we can keep it at the end. We'll straight away go to the constitution provisions. Before that, if there's any question. What do you mean by cascading of taxes? I've just answered. What is cascading of taxes? Which means the taxes on taxes. When I do buy from a manufacturer, okay, he will charge VAT on the not only on the value, he will charge VAT on the value plus on the excise duty. That was an example of cascading of taxes. And there was no credit on my CST purchases. When interstate purchases I used to do, I will pay CST on that. There was no credit. That is also cascading of tax. What is SENVAT? SENVAT is equivalent to the excise duty. SENVAT means the VAT credit, central value added tax, which means the credit of the service tax and the credit of excise duty was given a term called SENVAT. So you can either call it as SENVAT or excise. What is SENVAT? SENVAT is confusing. Yes, it is a central value added tax which was levied on the manufacturer. That was called. A person who is GST registered on civil construction, but same person, same state, grading GST registration possible or no. But this is related to registration. We'll discuss here. Let's not get away with the present topic. So we'll get into the topic of constitution. Okay, the Indian government is there. Now, Indian government said that they have, what does this mean? Government is divided into legislative, assembly, and judiciary. Judiciary means the court. Legislative means the parliament. Administrative means the bureaucracy. That is the authorities which are there. They are the administrators of what is passed in the legislative. So, India, anything, we'll have three scenarios: legislative, assembly, and judiciary. Then legislative will make the law. Now, how do they get the power to make law? Is the constitution. Once they get the powers from the constitution, they will be in a position to make the law. Then the implementation of that is made by the administrative authorities. That is the Central Board of Direct Taxes or the direct taxes, Central Board of GST, Central Board of Indirect Taxes, okay, CBDT, CBIC. These are the authorities which are there for as the administrative authorities. Under that, you have various officers who will implement the law, who will do the assessment and things. Because any law, just passing the law is not important. Implementation of the law is also required. That's why you have judiciary doing this law work, administrative authorities doing the implementation work. If there is any conflict between the taxpayer and this, or between the judiciary and the administrative, that's when the legislative and the administrative, that's when the judiciary comes into picture. The judiciary will decide or resolve the disputes between all these authorities, and it's an autonomous authority. Okay, that's how the scenario of a country works. So the legislative has the power. Now, legislative could be the Indian government first. It has a primary thing, the central government. Then you have the state government. Then you have the union government or a union territory. And for local government, which means the municipality or the panchayat, is called the local government. Our constitution has a preamble which says we are a socialist, sovereign, democratic republic. We are all clear with this. We have learned when we have done this constitution in our schools, right? So constitution has a preamble. Why preamble is important? Because it says what is your country. It will tell what kind of a country we are. Whether we are autonomous country or we are democratic country. We are lucky that we have a democratic country. It has 25 parts and it has 448 articles and 12 schedules. Is it required? Not required, just for information. But keep these basic information. Even though it is not required for exams, it is helpful in the long run. It has 25 parts, it has 448 articles, and it has 12 schedules. Now, what are the important provisions? Constitution is what we will read through. Then we will read the Constitution provisions which are relevant for GST. Meaning of ultra-virus. First is, what is meaning of ultra-virus? Means anything which is done without power is called ultra-virus. So if I collect taxes without having the power, okay, it is called as you're doing something ultra-virus. You're jumping the law. You're crossing your limits. Okay, that is called as ultra-virus. Article 265 says that Article 265 says no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of the law, which means, I'll repeat, no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of the law, which means to collect any taxes, I should have an authority, right? That was this authority existing before the Constitution Amendment for collection of GST? There was no power to collect GST before this amendment. That's the reason this amendment was required, because the state government cannot collect taxes on the services because it did not have any authority. So to collect any taxes, it has to have an authority, right? So that's the reason they said that we will make an amendment in the Constitution so that we get the authority. Because if they just collect taxes without authority, then it will be illegal. Then the powers, whatever is there illegally taken, will be questioned and the powers will go off. That's the reason the government has to make an amendment in the Constitution. So this article is very important article, which says that who can collect taxes and what are the powers available. So this said that no taxes shall be levied or collected except by the authority of the law. To collect any taxes, you should have a proper authority. So if you have a proper authority, then you can collect taxes. It prohibits arbitrary tax collection, which means you just cannot collect taxes just like that based on your wills and wish. You should have a proper authority. Authority means that Constitution will tell that this matter, like you have a tax on lotteries. So that will be mentioned in the Constitution saying that who can collect taxes. Taxes on imports. Example of this, import. What happens in our example of imports? I said that when I import something, can I collect CGST and SGST? No, there is no power under the Constitution. The Constitution says that on any import transaction, the tax can be collected only by the central government. So central government will collect only IGST. So you can collect only IGST in case of a import. That's when the levy, if the state government tries to collect CGST and SGST, it will be treated as ultra-virus and it will be treated as beyond the powers given under Article 265. Okay, so you cannot collect taxes for which you do not have authority. The state governments do not have any authority to collect taxes on my import transaction, so they cannot collect it. Okay, now to understand this Article 265, I've taken some case laws which are very important to understand how it is an ultra-virus and why 265 is important. In this case of Lord Krishna Sugar Mills versus Union of India, the sugar merchants had to meet some export targets. Okay, so the government at that point of time said that you have to meet some export targets in a promotion scheme which is started by the government. If they fall short of the target, so they were given some targets to promote exports. That's fine. To promote export, you give targets. But the problem came in when they did not meet their targets. They said that if they fell short of their targets, then an additional excise duty will be levied. Excise duty was already levied on the manufacturing activity, but they said if you don't meet your export targets, we'll levy additional excise duty for the shortfall. Then the government on its own cannot levy this tax by itself because it had not passed by the parliament. It has to be passed in the parliament and there should be a levy under the customs law, under the excise law. This is the question of additional excise duty, wherein the excise duty should say that there shall be levied taxes on the shortfall. But did the excise duty said so? No. Excise duty always used to say that the excise duty is a duty on the manufacturing of goods. So if I manufacture, I pay excise duty. But if I do not manufacture or if I fall short of my export target, I cannot be said that, okay, as a matter of export promotion, you will encourage me to do it. But if I cannot export, can you levy additional taxes? With this matter went to the Supreme Court, and then they said that no, or the shortfall, any taxes what you're collecting is incorrect. This is ultra virus, you cannot collect taxes. Okay, so this is when the Article 265 came in and said that no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of the law. So the authority were collecting taxes on the shortfall, but they did not have that power, so they couldn't collect it. Okay. Then there was another case in case of Angul versus Timirei Shailei, where all the villages were paying rupees 50 a day to the headman in place of a custom to render free a day's labor. Okay, wherein they said that they had to pay some headman 50 rupees if you have to render free a day's labor. So there's something called as a lagan kind of a thing, wherein the state setup we're collecting, wherein they're paying to the headman or kind of what you call the thakur, what is there in the small towns. Okay, so they used to pay 50 rupees for that. The court in this case held that the amount of rupees 50 which was collected as tax and no law had authorized it, and therefore it violated Article 265. It clearly said that whatever taxes you're collecting in terms of freeing of the labor, you cannot collect it because you're doing this without an authority of law, which is unconstitutional. So that is how it is Article 265. Now, what is levy? Levy means imposition of tax. Imposition of tax when all the ingredients are found to be present. They're talking about levy, saying that, okay, no taxes shall be levied or collected. Now, what is this meaning of levy? Levy means imposition, means who can impose the tax? When can taxes be imposed? When all the ingredients of the taxation are present. So all the acts, whatever you read, there will be a levy provision predominantly there. Because if there is no levy, then the taxation itself fails. The whole taxation will fail. So the levy should clearly provide what am I charging tax on? What is I am? The existence of the law should be mentioned, saying that what am I and what am I charging taxes on? It should mention the event. What is the event I am collecting the taxes? Under excise, I used to collect taxes on the manufacturer. That was the event. The event was manufacturing of goods. So if I manufacture goods, I will have to pay excise duty. Under GST, when I do a supply, I have to pay GST. So that is the event, the taxable event. Then the tax measure, saying that when, on what measure you will collect the taxes. GST said that I will collect taxes on the transaction value. Whatever is your sale value, on that I will collect the taxes. That's the tax measure. Income tax said that on the income I will calculate the income tax. So that's the tax measure. On the sale of when I'm doing a business, on the profit I will collect income tax. So that's the tax measure. Then the rate of tax. What will be the rate of tax has to be clearly spelled out. So now we have a schedule under GST that says that on this sale of product, this is the rate. On this sale of services, this is the rate. That schedule is not covered for your exam. The rate of tax will be specifically mentioned in your question, that the tax rate on this product is this percentage, the tax rate on this service is this percentage. Based on that, you have to decide. But you have to decide based on the question whether it is a goods or a service, because if they give you two rates, then you should know whether it's a goods or a service, because the rate of goods is separate, rate of GST on services is separate. So you have to determine what it is, but the rate will be given to you. And the person who shall pay, who shall be liable to pay the taxes, has to be mentioned. Like in case of excise duty, the manufacturer has to pay the taxes. So that's when the person who will pay the taxes has to be spelled out. So any levy has to have these four things: event, what is the taxable event, what is the tax measure, what is the rate of tax, and the person who shall pay these taxes. Okay. Then we'll come to Article 245, wherein the Parliament may make laws for the whole or any part of India. The legislature of the state can make laws for whole or any part of the respective states. No law made by the Parliament shall be invalidated. So they said Parliament shall make laws for the whole of India. It can make laws for any part of the state also. But the state government cannot make laws for the whole of India. State government can make laws only for a part of the respective state. So this is a jurisdiction bifurcation which was there, saying that the central government can make laws for the whole of India. State government can make laws for the respective states. No law, then further it says, no law which is made by the parliament will be invalidated due to extraterritorial operation. So if any law has been made or passed and it has any extraterritorial thing, wherein it is trying to collect taxes for anything which outside its jurisdiction, then it shall not be invalidated. Just because it is having extra jurisdictional thing, this protection is given under Article 245, which says that no law which is made by the parliament shall be invalidated due to any extraterritorial operation. Means if we are doing any imports, then we are levying IGST. Or if when you are doing any imports, we have to deduct TDS. But the transaction has happened outside India, no. But what is happening, GST is saying that on any import of services also you have to pay GST. This is called as reverse charge. So the person who is selling outside India, he is not registered under GST. So government cannot levy taxes on it. But the government is saying that when you are buying this, importing this, or importing any services, consuming this, you pay the taxes. So if I challenge that, no, this is an extraterritorial power which is given, the government has given protection saying that the law will not be invalidated due to this extraterritorial operation. You can still levy this taxes, which implies that central can make for state too, okay, but state cannot make for the center. But any law which is extraterritorial will not be treated as invalidated. Then Article 246 says that provides authority to union and state government for levying tax. So for levying tax also there is a separate article, Article 246, which provides authority to the union and state government. Now Article 246, which is there here, provides authority. It provides authority through 7th schedule. In the Constitution of India, you have various sections. These sections are called as articles. Then you have a schedule. They have said that taxes shall be levied based on the schedule. In the 7th schedule, you have list 1, list 2, and list 3. List 1 is called as union list. List 2 is called a state list, and list 3 is called a concurrent list. Okay. The respective taxation entries are mentioned just for reference, but just understand that there are 3 lists which is there in the Constitution. Now this list gave that, okay, list 1 you will have only powers to collect union taxes. List 2 will have only state taxes. There was no consolidated list. Even though this concurrent list was there, it only used to apply for stamp duty and other things, saying that, okay, some matters both center and state will monitor. We cannot include GST under this because the levy provisions under concurrent list was different and this list is different. So what they did is they brought in this Constitution amendment, okay, and they said there was why this was brought in because there was no integration earlier laws resulting in cascading effect. Therefore, a new law to integrate all the taxes was required. So this Article 245, 246 was there. They kept that article as it is and they brought in new article. Whenever they bring any amendments, they will not push 445 or 446 and they'll bring 247 because 247 already exists. When we draft any law or any section, you'll see any act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it will be on a continuous series. If there is any A prefix, if there's any suffix to any of these sections, which means it's an amendment. Okay, because there was no possibility to bring 246.1 or 240 anything to push 247. So they brought in Article 246A. This permitted. The 246A was brought in, wherein it gave power to make laws with respect to goods and services. It gave a joint power to the central government and state government. So Article 246A, we will read that section, we'll read that article. To understand Article 246A gave power to make laws with respect to both goods and services tax to the central government and the state government. Then Article 269A, okay, gave levy and collection of GST on interstate supply and import to the central government only. So interstate supply and import levy, the power is given to the central government. That's the reason I was saying that on their import transaction, CGST and SGST will never come because the CGST authorities or the SGST authorities do not have the power. The power is given only to the central government, which will collect it through the method of IGST. Then there was an article called Article 279A, which gave powers to the GST Council. Then the council made any recommendations to the members and votings. Those were the things which we will discuss now. Now, Article 246A. What is Article 246A? It says that notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246 and 244, which means notwithstanding when it starts, it means it can, in English, in legal definition, it's called as non-obstant clause. Non-obstant clause means notwithstanding anything. So whatever is there in 246 and 254, I will ignore for the purpose of this article. So it starts with notwithstanding anything contained in Articles 246 and 254. What is Article 246? That list 1, list 2, list 3. So notwithstanding whatever is there under that, whatever is there, I will leave that apart. And subject to clause 2, the legislature of every state has power to make laws with respect to goods and services tax imposed by the union or by the state. So I will read this again. Article 246A said that notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246, Parliament, which means the central government, the Parliament and subject to clause 2, the legislature of every state, which means the central government and the state government, have the powers to make laws with respect to GST, goods and services tax imposed by the union or by the state. Little complicated. Constitution has to be complicated because it should not be copied by anybody. That's the reason the Constitution wordings are really, the lawmakers of the Constitution were very clear that we have to use specific and strict words so that nobody can make different meanings of it. Right? So any word, any sentence is there, people make different meanings. I can interpret it in one way, other person can interpret it in another way. That's why this has to be a proper wording. So they said, notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246 and 254, the Parliament and the state government shall have the power to make laws with respect to goods and services tax, which is imposed by the union or by the state. Now, Parliament have exclusive powers subject to clause 2, right? Now, clause 2 said that Parliament have exclusive powers to make laws with respect to goods and service tax, where the goods, supply of goods or of services are both take place in the course of interstate trade or commerce. So if anything takes place in the case of interstate trade or commerce, then it shall be the exclusive power is given to the Parliament. Parliament here means central government. Okay. So Article 246A said that Parliament, the central government and state government both will have the powers. So these articles you'll have to remember. Article 246A, Article 269A, these articles you'll have to remember. So Article 246A, 246, easy, 2 plus 2, 4, 4 plus 2, 6, and then A. So it's very easy to remember. Article 246A gave powers to the central government and state government to collect GST, and for any interstate transaction under subclause 2, it gave powers to the central government to collect taxes on any interstate transaction. If this Article 2 was not there, then the state governments will fight, saying that I am supplying to your state, I should get taxes. The other state will say, I am the one who is using these taxes and I'm improvising, tax should come to me. So to avoid that fight, they have said that on any interstate transaction, central government will collect the taxes. Okay. Then Article 269A, it said that goods and services tax on supply in the course of interstate trade or commerce shall be levied and collected by the government of India, and such tax, this we have already there in 246A, right? But they said in 269A, whatever is collected, such tax shall be apportioned between the union and state in the manner as may be provided by the Parliament on the recommendation of the GST Council. So whatever integrated tax is collected, that will be apportioned between the central and state in a specified ratio. For the purpose of this clause, supply of goods or services, both in the course of import into the territory of India, shall be deemed to be supply of goods or services in the course of interstate trade or commerce. The explanation says, for the purpose of GST or goods or services, importation of goods or services in the course of import into the territory of India. So if you are doing any import of goods, or you are doing any import of services, it shall be treated as an interstate transaction. Why they have told that it will be treated as an interstate transaction? Because the taxes, the power to collect taxes on an interstate transaction is there with the central government. So on any interstate transactions, how I pay IGST, similarly, import of goods also or import of services also will be treated as an interstate transaction, and I will pay IGST on that. Okay. Goods and service tax in the course of interstate trade or commerce shall be levied and collected by the government of India, and such tax shall be apportioned between the union and state for the purpose this is there. Then Article 269(1), I've repeated here again. Then it says Article 269(a) 2 to 4, where any amount is collected as IGST and used for payment of SGST shall form part of the consolidated fund of India and things like that. Okay, so the consolidated fund of India will be there, wherein any taxes collected as IGST and which is not apportioned will become part of the consolidated of fund of India and things like that. Okay, so the powers are there under Article 249A and Article 269A. Then Article 279A says that who is the GST Council? The President. Okay, what is the composition of the GST Council? The Union Finance Minister will always be the chairperson. The Union Minister of State in charge of Revenue or Finance will be the member. The Minister in charge of Finance or Taxation or any other minister nominated by the state government will be the members. So the Central Finance Minister will be the chairman. Union Finance Minister will be the chairman. Other members are the members, the Union Minister of State in charge for the finance, and each state will have one member who will all become the members of the GST Council. It's a constitutional body. It says provides recommendation. It recommends the GST rate. It recommends the exemption. It provides the principle to cover the place of supply. It gives the threshold limit. The GST Council is the empowering authority which gets a lot of power from this Article 279A. So GST Council is very powerful because it gets power from this Article 279A. Okay. Now they've said that GST Council also will determine who are special category states. There are 11 special category states. This one of the methods to understand this, I've just used some acronyms. How do you remember these 11 category states? These are the 11 category states. There is a reason why I mentioned over here like this, because under GST registration also you will have to remember this. That's the reason I've used an acronym called TNMM. T.N. Manoharan sir. He was very good author on this in direct tax. So I remember him as TNMM. What is TNMM? TNMM means Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Manipur. These 4 states are special category states, totally 11. First start with 4, TNMM, then SUP. SU means Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry. MAT means Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Telangana. Then Assam, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir. So 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 makes it more. So I will remove the P and the T. SUP, I will remove the P. I will just, because I remembered it that way. P, Puducherry, even though it's a union territory, it is not treated as a special category state. T is a Telangana, still it is not a special category state, but it is relevant for registration to link that and this. I've used this term. So TNMM, SU, MA, then Assam, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu Kashmir. These 11 are called as special category states. Why is the special 11 category states relevant? Because for them, the threshold limit under registration is different. That's how you will treat, that's when this is relevant. Okay, so these are the 11 special category states. Then what can GST Council do? GST Council shall recommend, some people might need the acronym once again. What is TNMM? TNMM is Tripura, Nagaland, T for Tripura, N for Nagaland, M for Mizoram, and another M is Meghalaya. That is TNMM. SU is Sikkim and Uttarakhand. P is Puducherry. M is Mizoram. No, Mizoram has already come here. Here M is Meghalaya. A is Arunachal Pradesh. And T is Telangana. Okay, to write this, I will tell you. Then strike off Puducherry and Telangana because they are states, special states for registration, but not special category states. Then Assam, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu Kashmir. So TNMM4, SU 5, 6, 7, 8, MA 8, 9 is Assam is 9, 10 Himachal, and Jammu Kashmir. So these are the 11 special category states. So high-speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel. 1/2 of the total number of members shall constitute the quorum. So minimum 50% will be the quorum. Now, weightage of the votes. So if any resolution has to be passed in a quorum or in placed in a GST council, what weightage will have? The vote of the central government will have the weightage of 1/3 of the total votes. So his one vote is equal to 1/3 of the votes, and all the states put together will have a weightage of 2/3. Okay, so all the states put together will have 2/3 weightage, and central government will have 1/3. So to have that kind of balance, they've said that central government will have 1/3 and state governments put together will have 2/3. That is how the GST Council framework is working. Is the GST articles in GST? Yes. In Hindi, this description is not because this is a session which is to be discussed in English. That's the reason only discussion in English will happen. Here and there, English, Hindi discussion would happen, but predominantly this will be an English discussion. Yeah, these 3 articles, it is compulsory to important, not other articles. Okay. So we'll just discuss briefly the other topics because those are all self-explanatory topics, nothing much to discuss in that. But I will we'll just discuss the framework of GST. Yes, you have dual GST, then you have CKST GST that we have discussed. You have a legislative framework, which is the constitution, classification of goods and service taxes there, registration. I have discussed on registration, seeing that what are the registration limits. Here, if you see your study material, I will link that registration what I said. Yeah. Wherein, if you see 1.15, you have states with various threshold limits. So first threshold was TNMM, wherein Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Manipur. There, the threshold limit is 10 lakh rupees. So anybody having business more than 10 lakh rupees of goods or services, they will have to take compulsory registration if they cross 10 lakhs in this 4th state. So TNMM first, what I said, there the registration is okay. There it is for TNMM states, the threshold limit is 10 lakhs for services and goods. Next category of states is SUP MAT. Why I had told SUP MAT together? Because SUP MAT states the threshold limit is 20 lakhs for both goods and services. Some small states will have smaller threshold limit, some medium states will have another threshold limit, and large states will have a different threshold limit. So TNMM states have 10 lakhs. SUP MAT states, which is Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, SUP, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, and Telangana. These states, the threshold limit is 20 lakhs for goods and services. If I do any services more than 20 lakhs, in these states, I have to take registration. If I do any goods for more than 20 lakhs in these states, I have to take registration. Right? Then the balance states, even though those 3 special category states are there, which is left out, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu and Kashmir, and all other states put together, the threshold limit, 3rd threshold limit is 20 lakhs for services and 40 lakhs for goods. Okay, so now you understood why that SUP MAT, TNMM had said for first category of states 10 lakh rupees, second category of 6 states 20 lakh rupees, all other states 20 lakhs for services and 40 lakhs for goods. This is the threshold limit for registration. Okay, then we have this. What is the benefit of being special category states? They will get a lower threshold limit and the provisions will be same across India, but they will get a special threshold limit. What is threshold limit? That's the limit threshold limit means a limit which I touch. Up till that limit, I don't have to take registration. If I'm a small trader, if I'm a small service provider, I don't have to take registration. What is small is given by this threshold limit. So if I'm below this limit, then I'm not required to take registration. Once I cross this limit, then I have to take. Okay. Then we have this composition scheme, which means that if I am registered under a composition dealer, then I don't have to do all of this input tax credit. I'm a small trader. There also they said that the limit is 1.5 crores. So if I'm a special category state, then the limit is 75 lakhs. While all other states it is 1.5 crores. Up to 1.5 crores, if my turnover is there, then I can register as a composition dealer and I'll pay one fixed rate for all my goods and services. I will not take the input tax credit. I don't have to maintain books of accounts. So that's a special scheme which is given. It's an optional scheme. So if I'm a small dealer, is it necessary that I should go for composition? No, you can go for regular scheme, claim input tax credit and things. But if you don't want to get into all of this input tax credit scenario, then you can go for a composition scheme. Then we have this exemptions, which means that I will get exemption for some category of goods or services so that I don't have to pay taxes on it. So some exemptions also are given and seamless flow of credit is given. Now, how do I understand the seamless flow of credit is through this chart. Wherein if I have a purchase of CGST, if I have credit of CGST, then I can utilize this for payment of my CGST and I can utilize this for payment of my IGST. First, I should utilize for my CGST, then with my IGST. Second is if I have a credit of SGST, I can utilize this for my output SGST payment or I can use this for my output IGST payment. So basically this credit will lapse. Third is if I have a credit of IGST, then I can utilize this for payment of IGST and then I can utilize this for payment of CGST or SGST in any manner. So that's how the credit flow works. But important thing to note here is the credit of CGST cannot be claimed with SGST. Similarly, the credit of SGST cannot be claimed with CGST. That is how the credit mechanism works. Okay. This is how the credit mechanism works. So to revise this and we'll go to the question answer so that you will understand this in total. Yes, somebody has suggested that we get a summary of this. Yes, if you go through this presentation again, you will understand this very clearly and it is very self-explanatory. But what did we discuss today? Before, at the end, I will take you to the MCQs also so that you can understand the concepts much better. We understood what is direct taxes, what is taxation first. Then we understood what is direct taxes, what is indirect taxes. Then we understood what are all the taxes which is subsumed under CGST, what are the taxes subsumed under SGST, and what are the taxes subsumed under IGST. Then we learned that on any interstate transactions, IGST is charged. In case of an intrastate transaction, CGST and SGST is charged. And in case of importation, always IGST is charged. Then we understood the features of taxation. We understood the levels, the years from where the GST began, how the GST Act came in, the constitutional provisions, why it was important. Then we went through the important articles of constitutions, Article 246A, Article 269A, and Article 279A, right? Article 269A said that notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246, whatever is there, it is there. But 246 came into picture saying that, Hato, 246 move apart, whatever I am saying is important. So Article 246A gave power of collection of taxes to the central government and state government for the goods and services. Then Article 269A said that goods and services shall be on importation, interstate transaction shall be treated as, on import of transaction shall be treated as imports. Import shall be treated as an interstate transaction. And Article 269A also said that, Article 269 said that GST on interstate transaction shall be collected by the government of India itself, right? So we studied Article 269A. Then the Article 279A is the provision of GST Council, which said that GST Council, who is GST Council, who is the chairperson, who are the members, then what are the voting powers. That is what we had discussed. Then we discussed on the salient features of GST. We saw the GST credit. Okay, a dual GST is there. Then other things are, what is a GST common portal, who is a GSP and ASP, what a GSP and ASP is basically a chain, is a intermediary between the taxpayer and the government. If you have lot of data, then you can go through this GST, goods and service tax suvidha providers. So GSP and ASPs are intermediaries who can help us to transfer data to the portal. You can either directly put into the portal, or if you have huge data, imagine a case of a Reliance. It has such a big business. It cannot provide the data manually. So it has to go through a GSP and ESP, wherein data gets converted and then goes to the portal. Then what are the taxes on goods and services? GST is a tax on goods and services except to levy of GST. What are the exceptions? Alcoholic or liquor for human consumption, that is not subject to GST, that is subject to state excise. Petroleum, crude, diesel, air turbine fuel, and natural gas is subject to not GST but central excise duty and VAT. So dual GST still applies on petroleum products. On tobacco products, central excise duty and GST both applies. Opium, Indian hemp, and narcotic drugs, state excise and GST both applies. So tobacco, opium, and narcotic drugs is one wherein GST plus one other tax will apply. On tobacco, central excise duty and GST, opium, Indian hemp, and narcotic drugs, state excise and GST both will apply. On immobile property, no GST is there. When you do any land transfer, no GST. But if you do any construction services, then GST is there. So this is what we learned. Then one slide which we have missed because it is self-explanatory. What are the benefits of the GST? This is a self-explanatory chart. This is being given in explanation things. But you can just read through this and just remember these are the pointers which is being given. If you just write these pointers and explain it, this is good enough. GST is beneficial to the economy. It is beneficial to the trade and industry. It is a tax, makes the tax compliance easy, and it has a simplified tax structure. And you just explain this in detail with these pointers. You are good to tell the advantages of GST. Prajwala, how to go about pronouncements book? I didn't understand your question. Can you please explain your question? Okay, now we'll get into the MCQs. The questions were already given to you. Now we'll go with the question and answer. So we have 6 questions and then multiple choice answers. I will also share this with the team so that they can share it with you. Discuss the dual GST model as introduced in India. India has adopted the dual GST model in view of the federal structure of the country. Okay, you have to write this very importantly, federal structure. Then consequently, the central and state government simultaneously levy GST on the taxable supply of goods or services or both, which takes place within a state or union territory. Thus, tax is imposed concurrently by the center and states. Then the center also has the power to tax interstate sales, and states are also empowered to tax services, and GST extended to whole of India including the state of Jammu and Kashmir. List the central and state levies which have been subsumed: central excise, service tax, excise duty, CVD and special CVD, central sales tax, central surcharge and cess. Under state levies, state surcharge and cess, entry tax, entertainment tax, tax on lottery, betting and gamble, VAT and sales tax, luxury tax, and taxes on advertisements. All of this has been subsumed. Explain briefly the leviability of GST on petroleum, crude and oil till such dates. Now, what happens in case of petroleum, crude and diesel products are presently not leviable to GST. GST will be levied on these products from a date to be notified on the recommendation of the GST Council. So on petroleum, crude products, GST is not levied. Did I make any mistake here? Yeah, on petroleum, crude, diesel products, GST is not levied. Excise duty and VAT is levied. Okay. GST is a simplified tax structure. How is it justified? The statement is justified. Simpler tax regime with fewer exemptions, along with reduction in multiplicity of taxes, uniformity in law, common system of classification. These are the pointers which you can explain. Fifth question is special category states. I've discussed this. If you don't remember, if you can remember this, good. Otherwise, I've given you the option of using the small acronyms. Discuss the leviability of GST or otherwise on tobacco. Tobacco is within the purview of GST. So this is GST on tobacco and this is on petroleum products. Don't get confused. On tobacco is within the purview of GST. GST is levy on tobacco. However, UN government has also retained the power to levy excise duties on tobacco and tobacco products. Thereby, tobacco is subject to GST as well as central excise duty. Please also explain the flow of credit in detail. After this MCQs, I will explain the punch. After this, you can please wait. Should we remember all these tax names? At least major tax names you should remember so that you can tell them what all the taxes which has been subsumed. Now, this can be multiple choice questions to whether to remember the article number or no. Important sections of the important article numbers you have to remember. Which article contains the power to make laws with respect to GST? Article 246A. This is very simple because A means an alteration which has happened. So Article 246A. GST came into force by which Constitution Amendment Act? Constitution Amendment Act. Yes. Very good. People are giving correct answers. GST came in force on which article? 101st Constitution Amendment Act. Bill was 115th bill, but the act was called as 101st Constitution Amendment Act. GST is one of the biggest. I will not wait for the answers here. I will just go through because we have shortage of time. So I will go through a question and immediately tell you the correct answer. GST is one of the biggest taxation reforms of independent India being implemented with the aim of enhancing the overall growth of a nation. It is comprehensive dash indirect tax. It is a comprehensive destination-based indirect tax levy on goods as well as services at the national level. Okay, the taxes are levied at the national level and it is a comprehensive destination-based tax. So it is not a origin-based tax. GST is a destination-based tax because which state it goes, the credit flows to that stage. When we read the IGST, when we see the credit of IGST, we'll get to know that the taxes of this state goes to the state where it is being consumed. So that's why it's a destination-based tax. So GST is also called as a destination-based consumption tax. India has adopted a dual model of GST where the tax is charged concurrently by the center and state. Therefore, for an interstate transaction, for an interstate sale, the GST intrastate sale, for an intrastate sale, the GST is equal to CGST and SGST. The uniform policy recommended by the GST Council on e-way bill being to be implemented will be totally eliminating. Okay, this is out of syllabus, but just to understand e-way bill, eliminating the check post system, there is something called as a e-way bill wherein they will eliminate the check post system and will break the entry barriers. So earlier we used to have check post and things. Now there will not be any check post and e-way bill will be a clean flow. So once you generate an e-way bill, you don't have to vary for any movement of goods. Various taxes levied under different acts. However, certain items still continue to be taxed both under central excise and GST. What is the levy? What are the products on which is levied both under central excise and GST? Is it alcoholic liquor for consumption? No. Tobacco and tobacco products is one which is levied both by under central excise and GST. This is a very tricky question. So you have to understand alcoholic for liquor for human consumption is outside GST. Motor spirit and natural gas is outside GST. But tobacco and tobacco products, GST and central excise both are levied. Okay. And a model of GST adopted by India, taxes paid on the inward supplies made by a registered person is available as ITC, which can be utilized for making payments. The ITC of GST can be utilized for now ITC of CGST. I had given you that flow chart, right? So CGST credit shall first be utilized for CGST, then with IGST. Which is the chart I'm referring to? I'm referring to this chart. Yeah. So credit of CGST shall first be utilized for CGST, then with IGST. So this is the question. So CGST credit shall be first utilized for CGST and then with IGST. The tax under GST legislation is being levied simultaneously by the union and state. Is it exclusively by the union and state? No. It is levied simultaneously by the union and state. Various taxes that has been subsumed in the GST to make one nation, one tax, one market for consumers. Out of the following, which of the taxes has been subsumed? Basic custom duty, has it been subsumed? No. Taxes on lotteries, it is subsumed? Yes. Entertainment tax, is it subsumed? No. Environment tax? No. Environment tax is, it's not entertainment tax, sorry, it is environment tax. So environment tax is also not subsumed. Taxes on lotteries is the only tax which has been subsumed. Alcoholic for liquor is subject to what? All state excise duty and central sales tax or VAT. So alcoholic liquor is subject to, not subject to GST definitely. Whether it is A or B, you'll get confused. So alcoholic liquor, tobacco, and opium, narcotics, even though they are outside GST, just understand what taxes is to be levied on what. This will be a very tricky question which can come up. Okay. Now somebody was asking, Dipanshu Agarwal, are you here? Dipanshu Agarwal. Most of the people are giving correct answers. Yes, that's good. Go through this question. I will share this question answer so that you can go through it. Yes, thank you, Pooja. Yes, you are good that you have understood the concept very clearly. You need to do a reading. Definitely, once you do a reading, then you will cover, because 40 marks is there. The topics are so much. Uh, you have to understand, concentrate over here and read through it so that you will understand it. We have one problem solving session. During that session, note down all your questions. We will answer those questions in the problem solving session after the input tax credit chapter. So go through this and read through yourself. Another 3 minutes if any. Yes, these articles are important. Yes, these 3 articles are important. Yes, 2-3 minutes में conclude. Neha Garg is asking, please share your CA journey. Yeah, it is really challenging CA journey. Lot of ups and downs, lot of things, but this is not the platform now to discuss. We'll discuss sometime later on my CA journey. Bye, sir. Have a good day. It is good night now. Next class is on 26th, 6:30 to 6 to 8:30. Topic is supply. Okay. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Please go through the topics what we have discussed so that before we get into the chapter of supply, we can discuss if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you. Yes, sir.